Outside a well-appointed building, an unseen person exclaims that an item of red rarity is incredibly rare. Inside, a 28-year-old C-rank swordsman named Dumeki On asks the shopkeeper if the appraisal is real. On joyfully holds his new polearm, confirming it is the demon-carving Fram of red rarity. The shopkeeper asks if On is finally joining a party, but On insists he is a solo act. In the background, a cloaked figure quietly observes, as On has worked alone since a past betrayal. Another adventurer urges On to join a party, mentioning an A-rank group from the capital needs a longsword user. Walking down the street, On dismisses the idea, thinking that party-based adventuring never ends well. He broods over rumors about an S-rank adventurer, feeling their business has nothing to do with him. His anger fades as he mutters about reaching B-rank, before a voice asks if he is On. He turns to see a group of 4 well-equipped adventurers standing before him in the street. On recognizes them as the A-rank party from the capital that the other adventurer had mentioned. The party's handsome blonde leader introduces himself as Martis of Akagan no Tsuki, requesting On's cooperation. Martis leans in close, whispering the details of the mission directly into On's ear. In a dark forest, Martis explains the mission is to help subjugate a unicorn for a generous reward. He conjures a small ball of light to illuminate their path through the dark woods. The party stands together as Martis thanks On for his help. Noting the unicorn's speed, Martis adds with a smile that a strong attacker is essential, though he can't promise the horn as a reward. On internally weighs the offer, deciding the 30 gold is too tempting despite his reluctance to team up. While traveling, On daydreams about the long, peaceful break he can take after this job is over. Martis instructs On to watch their rear for safety while looking over a map. On agrees, focusing on the path ahead as the party consults their map behind him. As On walks ahead alone, Martis and his 2 female companions linger behind, studying their own map. The 2 women in Martis's party exchange a subtle, sinister look behind their leader's back. Deeper in the forest, On's eyes widen as he shouts that he has found their target. He turns back towards his party, raising his hand to rally them for the fight. He gives the command for everyone to prepare for the coming battle. A wicked dark blade suddenly erupts from the center of his chest. His eyes fly open in an expression of pure, uncomprehending shock and searing pain. A choked gasp escapes his lips as he begins to collapse forward. Martis and his party stand impassively, watching their bait fall to the ground. Lying on the forest floor, On chokes as Martis lets out a cruel, booming laugh. On stares at the blade piercing him, disbelieving how easily he was caught. He can't comprehend how they managed to fool him so completely. Martis gloats over him, finding his gullibility amusing as his companions mock the dying man. On realizes with horror that he has been betrayed again, treated like worthless trash. He understands someone must have overheard his conversation in the weapon shop. The plan becomes clear. Only the owner can retrieve items from a magic bag. They lured him deep into the forest with the sole intention of killing him for his weapon. They created a situation where he would be forced to take out his prized demon-carving Fram. Lying in the grass, he fully understands their scheme and curses them in his mind. Martis condescendingly notes that his quick understanding saves them trouble, declaring he'll take the weapon. The dark-haired woman, disgusted, urges the group to leave the scene. She clenches her fists, stating she can't stand breathing the same air as such garbage. The party prepares to leave him for dead, their expressions cold and detached. On struggles to rise, his eyes filled with fury as he vows he will never forgive them. The hooded figure notes his persistence as Martis turns back towards him. Martis grips his sword, stating there is nothing to forgive. With a manic laugh, Martis brutally stabs him again, screaming for him to just die already. On is thrown violently back to the ground by the force of the powerful blow. The 2 women watch with amusement, mocking his futile struggles to resist. Martis stands over him, his expression one of cruel, triumphant satisfaction. He grinds his boot into On's head, pressing his face into the dirt. With a final taunt, he tells On to suffer while he dies. Martis's face is a mask of crazed glee as he delivers his final, chilling command. He turns his back on one last time, leaving him for dead. The party walks away, abandoning On's broken body in the darkening forest. On's hand falls limp onto the ground, his life seemingly over. Lying face down in a pool of his own blood, he attempts to check his status. A status window appears, showing his HP is at 5 and he is bleeding out. From his perspective in the grass, he realizes he has been betrayed once again. His HP drops to 4 and he feels there is nothing more he can do. His eyes close as he resigns himself to his inevitable fate. His HP ticks down from 3 to 2 as he reflects on his miserable, unfulfilled life. He remembers the faces of his first betrayers who deceived and used him. Then he sees the faces of his current betrayers who lured him into their trap. His HP drops to 1 as he thinks about his life of constant suffering. A final vengeful thought consumes him. If he is reborn, he will no longer hold back. His HP hits 0 as he vows to become stronger than anyone and live how he wants. From his ground-level view, his status confirms his HP is at 0. A flicker of consciousness remains and he wonders what is happening to him. His HP is still 0, yet he questions why he is still aware. He concentrates his mind, determined to check his status one last time. The status screen confirms it. Condition, death. HP, 0/0. He is truly dead. His lifeless body lies on the forest floor, and he wonders if this is what death is like. He imagines death as ascending to the heavens with a halo and wings. Or perhaps an out-of-body experience, but this feels entirely different. His world is just a patch of grass. He has no other senses. Trapped in his inert body, he realizes there is absolutely nothing he can do. A figure walks by his decaying body, kicking his head slightly as they pass. Flies crawl over his unmoving hand, a clear sign of his body's decay. With a surge of will, his fingers twitch, digging into the dirt with a faint groan. His eye snaps open as he realizes he is still conscious, wondering how many days have passed. He tries to speak to check his status, but can only make garbled, inhuman sounds. He focuses his mind, willing his status to appear through sheer, desperate concentration. A status screen flickers into view, revealing his grotesque, decaying face and new stats. He is shocked to see his new race is ghoul zombie, and his condition is rotting. He questions if it's even possible for a human to become a monster like this. He forces himself to calm down and begins to assess his new, horrifying situation. He analyzes his stats, noting they are drastically lower, with his agility at a pitiful 1 point. He discovers he has gained new skills, including a resistance to pain. Lying on the ground, he slowly begins to process his horrifying transformation. He recognizes the scenery, realizing he is still in the forest of the setting sun. The horrifying truth dawns on him. He is now a monster, the hunted. He recalls that this forest is a hunting ground for novice adventurers seeking low-level undead. He resolves to level up and escape before he is discovered and killed. A memory of a former companion's advice gives him strength to do what he can with all his might. He still possesses his adventurer's knowledge and the items in his magic bag, giving him an edge. With a determined snarl, he begins to move, his mind set on leveling up and starting his new life. In a sun-drenched, vine-choked ruin, a young man with white hair surveys his surroundings. He takes in the sight of the crumbling brick walls and the shattered glass ceiling above. Walking into a pool of light, he murmurs his first impressions of the dungeon's interior. A loud growl from his stomach reminds him of his gnawing, ever-present hunger. His bare feet pad softly across the cool stone floor as he continues his cautious exploration. Suddenly, a deeper, more menacing growl echoes from the shadows, putting him on high alert. He realizes with a jolt that the second, more threatening sound was not his own stomach. From the darkness, a massive, malevolent eye with a glowing, slit pupil glares at him. A hulking, pig-faced orc wielding a crude club lumbers out of an adjacent corridor. An internal system overlay identifies the creature as a low-level, rank E monster. His adventurer's memory supplies him with data about the hierarchy of monster rankings. The orc lets out another threatening growl, but the young man remains perfectly still, unfazed. A dangerous glint appears in his eyes as he calmly assesses his equally low-ranked foe. His ravenous hunger completely shifts his perspective, making the monster look like a meal. A terrifying, sharp-toothed grin spreads across his face as he declares the orc looks delicious. He lunges forward in a blur, his right arm grotesquely transforming into a monstrous limb. The surprised orc reacts instinctively, its powerful jaws clamping down hard on his shoulder. Ignoring the bloody wound, he drives his transformed fist forward with a guttural roar. His claws punch clean through the orc's torso, bursting out its back in a shower of gore. The light quickly fades from the orc's eyes as its massive body collapses into a heap. He immediately falls upon the fresh corpse, sinking his fangs into the raw flesh. Rising to his knees amidst the carnage, an ecstatic grin stretches across his blood-stained face. He declares the meal delicious, calling orcs a beverage and offering thanks for the food. Getting to his feet, he muses that even eating the entire orc wasn't enough to sate him. While gnawing on a chunk of meat, he contemplates his unending hunger for more. His eyes land on a wide stone staircase, realizing this is a dungeon one must ascend. At the top of the landing, he is met by a formidable platoon of spear-wielding orcs. A slow, delighted, and utterly terrifying smile spreads across his face as saliva drips from his chin. He whispers with glee, realizing he has stumbled upon a magnificent buffet of orc meat. To his bewilderment, the menacing orc formation breaks and parts down the middle. He stares dumbfounded as the orcs form two neat lines as if lining up to be eaten. His shock gives way to wild, exultant joy as he accepts this all-you-can-eat special. With a bellowing laugh, he leaps into the fray, his powerful arm transforming once more. He becomes a whirlwind of destruction, tearing his way through the offering line of orcs. Their bodies tumble down the stone steps, piling up in a grotesque heap at the bottom. Standing amidst the carnage, he wonders if he has just defeated more than 20 of them. He grins, realizing this must be a rumored leveling room, a feast of experience points. Casually eating a piece of meat, he reflects on his need for more strength and agility. He notes his thinking has become simpler and more monstrous, but he doesn't dislike it. His stomach lets out a deafening growl, despite him having just eaten 25 orcs. A status screen reveals his predation skill has leveled up, granting him HP recovery. Realizing more monsters await on the upper floors, he gets to his feet and continues his ascent. In an identical corridor, a sharp twang cuts through the silence, alerting him to a new threat. At the far end of the hall stand three bulkier orc archers, identified as rank E+. He notices their quivers are shimmering, supplied with endless arrows by the dungeon itself. Deciding he must crush the archers first, he explodes into a low, ground-hugging sprint. An arrow sinks deep into his chest with a sickening thud, but his momentum doesn't falter. He slams his transformed hand into the lead archer's face, causing its head to explode. He wheezes that if he can take them down in one hit, this will be an easy win. After the fight, he concludes this is a small-scale dungeon, perfect for grinding levels. A powerful, electrifying sensation suddenly floods his entire being, signaling an impending change. A system window materializes, presenting him with a choice for his next evolution path. He recalls his first evolution and carefully analyzes the two new options presented to him. He considers the giant ogre and the cursed ghoul, mummy, weighing their strengths and weaknesses. The term Kijin, or ogre man, surfaces in his memory, a mysterious, unlisted possibility. The energy coursing through him intensifies tenfold, becoming an agonizing torrent of power. He screams in pain, his body convulsing as the transformation is forced upon him. When the transformation completes, he stumbles to his feet, his body feeling new and strange. Looking at his reflection in a puddle of blood, he sees two small, black horns. He commands his status to appear, revealing his new form, a level 20 Dokuro Kijin. His stats have skyrocketed, and he has gained an array of new titles and powerful skills. Flexing his fingers, he feels the unfamiliar and immense power thrumming beneath his skin. He looks at his new, more demonic form and lets out a shaky, uncertain breath. With a hint of concern, he quietly wonders to himself if he might have overdone it. A hand reaches out amidst an explosive background, expressing a desperate need to level up. A close-up of On's face shows his grim determination to raise his level. On runs through the forest with a predatory grin, vowing to become stronger. A wide shot of the forest canopy, with sound effects indicating a fierce battle. On throws a powerful punch towards the viewer, his face a mask of fury. On dashes through the dense forest, a blur of motion and determination. A close-up on On's stomach as it lets out a powerful, audible growl. On slumps weakly, considering eating tree bark or a dangerous sleeping mushroom. On clutches his bag, complaining about his ghoul constitution and its strange weaknesses. On slams his fist against a tree, shouting with renewed, angry determination. On, in his ghoul form, vows to become stronger than anyone. A close-up on On's eyes shows his fierce, unwavering determination. Hearing a river, On dashes through the forest, hoping to find fish. A first-person view shows On rushing headlong towards the fast-moving river. On leaps dramatically, diving headfirst towards the rushing river water below. On's head hits the water with a painful impact, crying out. A large splash erupts as On's body makes impact with the river. Underwater, On struggles in panic, realizing the current is dangerously fast. The powerful river current carries him towards a massive, thundering waterfall. Washed ashore below the waterfall, On groans, looking wet and exhausted. On coughs up water on a rocky shore, feeling lucky to be alive. A close-up shows On pushing himself up from the rocky ground. On cautiously approaches a dark cave, deciding to venture inside for now. On's face is set with determination as he decides to enter the cave. On sees a mysterious bright light glowing from deeper inside the dark cave. On recognizes a glowing magic circle on the floor as a dungeon entrance. A close-up of On's foot stepping onto the glowing magic circle. On grins, thinking there might be edible monsters to hunt inside the dungeon. On declares he's going in as a pillar of light transports him. On arrives in a sunlit, crumbling ruin with overgrown plants and vines. On stands in a sunlit, ruined courtyard, surveying his new dungeon surroundings. On assesses the ruins as his stomach growls loudly from hunger. A close-up shows On's bare feet walking softly on the overgrown stone floor. On freezes, alerted by a deep, menacing growl from a dark corridor. On realizes the growl wasn't his, as a large monster appears from a corridor. A menacing, slit-pupiled eye glares at On from the shadows of the corridor. A hulking, spear-wielding orc is identified as a rank E monster. The monster ranking system is explained, spanning from F to the mythic SSS rank. As the young man stands resolute, SSS and SS ranks are noted as legendary. His hand clenches as he internally acknowledges he and the orc are of the same low rank. With a terrifying grin, he lunges forward, his hunger making the orc look like a delicious meal. The creature reacts instinctively, its powerful jaws clamping down hard on his shoulder. A close-up shows the immense pressure of the orc's bite on his shoulder. He drives his transformed fist forward with a ferocious snarl. The powerful punch sends the orc flying backward across the stone floor. He immediately sinks his teeth into the fallen orc's flesh, devouring it raw. Blood and viscera smear across his face as he continues his savage meal. Kneeling over the corpse, he declares with pure glee how delicious it was. He lets out a contented sigh, the hunger momentarily sated. Pressing his hands together, he gives thanks, declaring that orcs are a beverage. He kneels amidst the carnage, feeling the deep satisfaction of the meal. Gnawing on a remaining piece of meat, his hunger is still not gone. Standing up, he muses that eating the whole thing wasn't enough to fill him. His predatory gaze scans the area, already craving more meat, perhaps with bones. Looking up, his eyes fall upon a wide stone staircase leading to the next floor. Realizing this is an ascending dungeon, he begins to make his way up. Still gnawing on the meat, he continues his determined ascent. At the top of the landing, a look of surprise crosses his face. An entire platoon of spear-wielding orcs stands arrayed before him, blocking his path. The orcs grunt and shift, their small eyes wide with what looks like fear. A delighted, terrifying smile spreads across his face as he sees a buffet of orc meat. The menacing formation breaks, and the orcs part down the middle. He stares, utterly dumbfounded by their strange, organized behavior. One by one, the orcs step forward in neat lines, seemingly offering themselves up. Saliva drips from his chin, his smile widening with manic glee at the sight. He understands this must be an all-you-can-eat special, a feast just for him. With a devastating punch, he sends the first offering flying backwards down the stairs. His bare feet pad softly on the stone floor as he moves with inhuman speed. He becomes a dark blur, a whirlwind of destruction among the orcs. He bellows that they haven't changed, laughing as he tears through their ranks. His transformed arm delivers another crushing, bone-shattering blow. Another orc is sent tumbling down the stairs, its body lifeless. Their bodies pile up in a grotesque heap at the bottom of the steps. He stands panting amidst the carnage, wondering if he killed more than 20 of them. Sitting on the steps, he identifies this as the rumored leveling room. A surge of power courses through him as he commands his status to appear. He reflects that his attack power alone is still not enough for large groups. Gnawing on meat, he decides to prioritize raising his strength and agility. He muses that his thoughts have become simpler and more monstrous than before. A sharp-toothed smile plays on his lips as he considers this. He admits to himself that strangely, he doesn't dislike this new version of himself. Sitting on the steps, he thinks this new, more monstrous persona might be fine. A deafening growl from his stomach interrupts his moment of introspection. He clutches his stomach, amazed that he is still hungry after eating so many. With a weary look, he commands his status to appear once more. His predation skill has leveled up, improving his natural HP recovery when full. He gets to his feet, deciding to head to the upper floors for more monster food. Peeking cautiously around a corner, he senses something in the next corridor. The corridor appears empty, as a title card for the chapter is shown. He walks cautiously down the path, his senses on high alert. He climbs another flight of stairs, ascending deeper into the dungeon. The stairs lead up to another floor with a seemingly identical layout. He emerges into a wide corridor, similar to the one he just left. He walks forward, noting the familiar crumbling brick and creeping vines. A sharp twang cuts through the silence, his head snapping to the side. He spins around just as something whistles past his head at high speed. At the far end of the hall stand 3 more orcs, archers, and fighters. These new enemies are bulkier, with bows and hand-to-hand combat stances. An arrow sinks deep into his chest with a sickening thud. He gasps, blood spewing from his mouth, but his momentum doesn't falter. He notices their quivers shimmering, realizing the dungeon is supplying their arrows. He decides he must prioritize and crush the archers first. Sprinting down the corridor, claws extended, he becomes a blur of motion. He slams his hand into the lead archer's face, which explodes in a geyser of gore. He looks at his own grievous wound, his face contorted in shock. He turns to the next archer, who cries out in terror at the sight. He lands another devastating blow on the remaining archer, obliterating it. He wonders if he can take them all down in a single hit. Panting but victorious, he grins, thinking this will be an easy win. He considers the typical dungeon structure: floors, a boss, and an exit portal. He concludes this small dungeon is filled with only low-rank monsters. He decides to use this place to grind levels before confronting the boss. A faint electrical sensation begins to course through his body. His eyes widen as a powerful, electrifying sensation floods his being. A system window appears, prompting him to select an evolution path. He realizes this is a monumentally important choice for his ghoul-type form. He analyzes his options: a powerful giant ogre or a magic-using cursed ghoul mummy. A third option, Kijin, appears, a term he's heard but can't place. The energy coursing through him intensifies tenfold into an agonizing torrent of power. He screams in pain, realizing he hasn't even had time to make his choice. The transformation completes, and he pants, his body feeling new and strange. He looks down at his hand, flexing his fingers with newfound, unfamiliar power. He commands his status to appear, revealing his new form and skyrocketed stats. Sitting amidst the rubble, he wonders with a slight smile if he has overdone it. He clutches his arm, testing his newfound strength with a powerful squeeze. He declares that he has tested his arm, and if the next floor is the boss, he will leave. He peeks into the next room, spotting a new group of formidable enemies. A well-organized party of D-rank orcs stands ready, led by a general. An orc guard stands firm, its shield raised, acknowledging the new threat. A wild, manic grin spreads across his face as he activates his combat skills. He asks if they are ready to fight as he launches himself forward. From a high angle, he identifies the orc general as his primary target. The orc general's face is a mask of grim determination, ready for battle. The horned warrior becomes a blur of motion, moving too fast for the orcs to track. The orc general's eyes widen in disbelief at his incredible, overwhelming speed. He slams his fist into the guard's shield, shattering it with a thunderous impact. Having dispatched the orc guards on watch as one gets sent flying, impressed by his own power. With a wild, excited grin, he realizes his evolution has surpassed his former human strength. He recalls how a standard party of 4 would be needed for such a powerful foe. On remembers how he once had to strategize to defeat D-rank monsters all by himself. The orc general realizes On combines immense power with advanced combat knowledge. On slams his fist into the stone floor, creating a shockwave with wild glee. The terrified general thinks this warrior could even defeat an A-rank adventurer. Amidst the wreckage, On casually notes the fight ended quicker than he expected. With a predatory smirk, he taunts the general as the killer of his comrades. The general whimpers in fear, unable to meet On's intense, taunting gaze. On questions the orc's pride, asking if it feels no shame for its cowardice. He aggressively dares the creature to come and fight him like a real man. The orc general remains frozen in place, stammering in utter, paralyzing terror. His battle lust gone, On sighs with disappointment, stating that he's had enough. He turns away, telling the pathetic creature to just run and live in fear forever. His expression darkens as he resentfully mutters the name Okino under his breath. His focus returns as he identifies the massive, ornate doors as the boss room. The doors are framed by overgrown, gnarled tree roots and thick, creeping vines. He crosses his arms, speculating that the boss is most likely an orc-type monster. The worst-case scenario, a formidable A-rank orc king, crosses his mind. He decides he won't know the truth about what lies ahead until he goes inside. With a powerful kick, he smashes the heavy, ornate double doors wide open. He steps cautiously into the vast, shadowy chamber beyond the shattered threshold. He enters the huge torch-lit arena, his eyes scanning for the room's inhabitants. 3 hulking, axe-wielding orc berserkers, identified as C-rank, stand ready. The berserkers turn to face him as he confidently enters their dangerous domain. On looks startled, realizing the threat is much greater than he had anticipated. A monstrous B+ rank red ogre, the true boss, reveals its intimidating form. He knows a direct confrontation with the entire group would be instantly fatal. He activates his skills, boosting his raw strength and agility in preparation for battle. His first move is to isolate the weaker berserkers from the powerful boss monster. He streaks across the floor, planning to take them on in a series of one-on-one fights. He closes the distance in an instant, grabbing the nearest berserker in a powerful hold. His face is a mask of intense concentration as he prepares his unorthodox attack. The other orc berserkers watch, momentarily unsure how to react to his strange tactic. He swings the captured orc with all his might, turning it into a living projectile. The orc projectile crashes into its comrades, scattering them across the room like pins. The red ogre closes the distance with shocking speed, ignoring the ensuing chaos. It flexes its massive arm, preparing to deliver a single powerful, crushing blow. The ogre clenches its fist, a weapon easily the size of On's entire head. On looks up in alarm as the colossal creature looms menacingly over him. The ogre unleashes a devastating punch, the impact erupting in a violent starburst. On is sent hurtling across the room by the incredible, unstoppable force. Crashing hard against the far wall, he realizes one direct hit means he is out. The ogre tells him to calm down as he struggles painfully to his feet. He grits his teeth, desperately remembering his wise mentor's words in this dire moment. A memory of his master appears, urging him to be resolute and not lose heart. A powerful mantra echoes in his mind, telling him to get his fighting spirit up. With a renewed and ferocious battle cry, he launches himself back into the fight. He deftly slides between the ogre's legs, easily evading a massive axe swing. The ogre's huge axe smashes harmlessly into the cracked stone floor behind him. On lands a solid, punishing punch on the ogre's completely unguarded back. The beast bellows in pain and rage from the unexpected and powerful counterattack. He taunts the beast, declaring that he has much more punishment in store for it. The enraged ogre swings its axe wildly, but its powerful attacks are clumsy. On dodges effortlessly, a ferocious and confident grin spreading across his face. He gets in close behind the ogre, readying another furious and decisive attack. He draws his own arm back, his muscles tensing for the final, brutal assault. He unleashes a furious storm of powerful blows directly against the ogre's back. Each punch lands with explosive, bone-shattering force, overwhelming the beast. He walks behind the now stunned ogre, stating that his attack is not over yet. With a ferocious grin, he prepares to end the fight with one final move. He unleashes a final, overwhelming barrage, shouting that it is not over yet. The ogre screams in sheer agony from the relentless and brutal assault. The force of the final blow echoes like thunder throughout the massive chamber. The colossal beast finally falls silent, its muscular body convulsing from the pain. On stands over the defeated ogre, its massive, clawed hand lying limp on the floor. On now wields two small daggers, preparing for the next phase of the battle. He is sent flying by a powerful blow, but still manages to slice the monster's arm. The monster catches him mid-air, its colossal hand clamped tightly around his head. The creature looks at him with intense, menacing eyes, its grip tightening. It demands that he unleash his true power, or it will devour him on the spot. The threat of being torn to pieces hangs heavy in the tense, silent air. With a primal war cry, he plunges his dagger forward with all his might. The dagger finds its mark, sinking deep into the monster's vulnerable eye. Panting heavily, he remarks on how quiet the room has finally become. He admits his temper got the better of him during the fight, but feels no regret. The chapter title reveals that the story is about the act of eating the dungeon core. He holds a small, sharp dagger, contemplating the intensity of the recent battle. He reflects that his small daggers were woefully inadequate against the Red Ogre. He knows he only managed to win by pushing all of his skills to their absolute limit. Facing a B-rank monster without a proper weapon was an incredibly foolish gamble. He decides to check his status and see the results of the intense fight. A screen confirms he is now level 23 and has gained the appraisal skill. He recalls a weapon shop owner once mentioning this incredibly convenient ability. The boss monster's massive body dissolves into shimmering particles of light. A large ornate treasure chest materializes in the spot where the boss fell. He approaches the chest, noting that while he couldn't eat the ogre, this is a good harvest. With eager anticipation, he prepares to open the mysterious, newly appeared treasure chest. He lifts the heavy lid, a massive, intimidating weapon rising slowly from within. He is utterly astonished by the sheer size of the brutal, spiked red club. He activates his new appraisal skill, his eye glowing with a faint inner power. Information floods his vision. Red Ogre's Kanabo, of the highest red rarity. Overwhelmed with a rush of emotion, he sits down to process everything. He realizes that the powerful appraisal skill will be an invaluable tool for him. He studies the Kanabo's stats, attack 15 and a special armor-breaking effect. A rarity chart appears, explaining the item ranking system and its incredible value. He excitedly decides to appraise his other possessions, starting with his magic bag. He is floored to discover his magic bag is also of the rare red rarity. He laughs, realizing he'd be rich if he sold it, but decides he won't. The horned youth, On, sits beside a treasure chest, preparing for his departure. He identifies the glowing magic circle on the floor as the dungeon's exit. Before leaving, he pulls out several orc corpses, deciding he has too much meat. A strange round button suddenly appears on the stone wall, catching his eye. He notes the button's shape seems to have been designed to be pushed. He considers the possibility that pressing it might activate a dangerous trap. A memory of his zombie mentor prompts him to abandon his caution. Giving in to a mischievous impulse, he decides to press the button anyway. A deep, grinding rumble echoes as the wall begins to slide open. A secret staircase is revealed, leading down into the dungeon's dark depths. He is surprised to learn the boss room was actually on the highest floor. A thrill of curiosity overcomes his caution as he grins with anticipation. He cautiously approaches the entrance to the newly discovered dark passage. Peering down the narrow stairs, he surveys the mysterious path ahead. His interest piqued, he takes a determined step to investigate the hidden area. He descends into a breathtaking grotto, filled with sparkling water and glowing plants. Utterly stunned, he wonders what this beautiful, unexpected room could be. He spots a small, elegant shrine standing in the center of a shimmering spring. Walking across a bridge, he sees something shining brightly on the shrine's altar. A close-up reveals a beautiful, smooth orb pulsing with a soft, warm light. He approaches the shrine, wondering if the glowing object is some kind of jewel. Carefully, he reaches out and picks up the mysterious, glowing sphere. An overwhelming primal instinct surges through him as he declares it looks delicious. He tries to resist, knowing it isn't food, but his hunger begins to return. His mouth waters as he stares intently at the glowing orb in his hand. Giving in to his monstrous impulse, he decides he will simply eat it. A memory of his zombie senpai giving a thumbs up flashes through his mind. He recalls his senpai's lesson to cast off the chains of common sense. He credits that teaching for making him the person he is today. Opening his mouth wide, he prepares to swallow the glowing orb whole. His current zombie companion silently raises a finger, trying to stop him. A bright light flashes from his chest as a voice confirms the core's absorption. He cries out as the voice announces the jewel is changing the dungeon master. The system states that the individual, Dumikian, will have his intelligence raised. Stunned, he realizes with a jolt that he has become a dungeon master. From the now empty shrine, a fluffy, indistinct shape begins to emerge. A small, furious piggy bank with a bow tie appears, scolding him for trying to eat it. Anne stares in disbelief, stammering that it's a pig-stuffed animal. The pig plushie introduces itself as Ars, confirming it is indeed a stuffed pig. With a proud puff of its chest, Ars declares that it is the dungeon core. Anne mutters in astonishment that the stuffed animal is actually talking. Ars explains that it couldn't move or speak before being eaten by its master. On, trying to make sense of the situation, asks what a dungeon core is. A diagram shows the core manages the dungeon when a master is absent. Anne asks what a dungeon master can do, his main concern being escape. Ars puffs its chest again, offering to explain everything in detail. The dungeon is identified as the Folinaural Labyrinth as its entrance is shown. Ars explains a master uses points to summon monsters and create rooms or treasure. A diagram illustrates that points are gained when creatures die inside the dungeon. Anne excitedly asks for clothes, wanting to test his new horn-hiding ability. A large red ogre appears, and Ars explains it was spawned automatically. Anne wonders if the ogre was absorbed to recover points, but Ars denies this. A chart shows that defeated monsters can be collected and then resummoned. Anne reflects on his rapid evolution: corpse, zombie, ghoul, oni, and now master. He feels a great sense of relief, having finally secured a safe base of operations. Ars happily laps water, and On notes how nice it is to have a companion. He suddenly realizes he hasn't seen his own reflection since his last evolution. He tells Ars he is going to the spring, as Ars tries to add more information. Leaning over the water, he prepares to face his new appearance. His reflection reveals a handsome, horned youth, and he wonders if it's really him. Ars peeks over, asking what he's looking at, as On admits it's unexpected. Ars gushes over how lovely his new form is, and On finds himself agreeing. When Ars asks about clothes, On confidently declares he can make them. He touches the fabric of his new cloak, grateful for the convenient power. He strikes a pose in his new attire, pleased with the simple but cool look. Ars asks what he plans to do now that he's settled in. Anne reveals he knows the location of another dungeon and intends to go there. Ars reminds him there are still a couple of master abilities left to explain. A diagram shows Labyrinth Transfer and Labyrinth Return for teleportation. Another diagram illustrates this subordinate contract for recruiting monsters. Anne is amazed to learn he can now communicate telepathically with his allies. Ars happily confirms that it can now form a connection with him as well. Anne feels overwhelmed by the sudden flood of new information and abilities. He decides to check his status, change clothes, and then rest for a bit. With a tired yawn, he decides to use his remaining points to create a bed. He lies down, relieved to have finally found a safe place to sleep. He awakens in a field of grass, his eyes fluttering open to the light. Sitting up, he recalls eating the dungeon core before falling into a deep sleep. He confirms to himself that the bizarre events were not just a dream. Placing his hand on the soft grass, he realizes that it's all real. Ars appears, informing him that he has been asleep for a solid 3 days. An sits on a glowing moss bed that Ars created for his comfort. He thanks Ars and tells him to just call him An, not Master. Ars confirms Anne's plan to head to the other dungeon. Ars explains that it can manage the dungeon in his absence. Anne eagerly prepares to leave, telling Ars they can communicate telepathically. Ars reminds him the teleportation circle to exit is in the core room. Ars wishes him well, telling him to be careful on his journey. An gives a confident nod and turns to leave the dungeon. Ars waves goodbye from the doorway as An begins his departure. Anne stands on the glowing magic circle, preparing to teleport outside. He emerges from the dungeon, standing beside a gently flowing river. He recognizes the river as the one he was washed down before his death. Knowing the way out, he decides to cover his face to avoid being seen. He pulls his hood up, concealing his distinctive horns and facial markings. With a determined grin, he declares hhis destination, the Soroku Plains. He dashes through the forest with incredible blurring speed. A dynamic shot shows him sprinting past the skeletal remains of a monster. He moves like a blur, a streak of motion through the dense woods. He arrives at the vast, open expanse of the Soroku Plains. A hooded An decides to hunt some of the local monsters as he travels. He breaks into a sprint, moving with incredible speed through the wilderness. A fierce, one-horned rabbit, a Rankti monster, suddenly charges toward him. With a powerful punch, An effortlessly dispatches the charging rabbit monster. He then defeats a Rankti goblin with another single, devastating blow. His swift and powerful punches obliterate the D-rank monsters in his path. Suddenly, An skids to a halt, his keen senses picking up a nearby sound. Looking from behind a tree, he spots a two-tailed fox demon in the distance. He identifies a pack of aggressive C-rank gray wolves as the source of the commotion. Peeking from his hiding spot, An observes the tense standoff with keen interest. The small fox demon faces the snarling wolves, growling back defiantly. Despite its fear, the cornered fox demon yelps and prepares to fight back. One of the wolves lunges, but the small fox bravely bites its attacker. An is impressed, noting the small creature's incredible grit and spirit. The little fox is hopelessly outnumbered by the pack of larger opponents. It growls, refusing to give up even when facing overwhelming odds. An, having seen enough, decides that he likes the creature's tenacity. Activating his agility skill, he prepares to intervene with a confident grin. In a blur of motion, he leaps into the fray, casually greeting the wolves. He turns to the small creature and coolly asks if it needs any help. The little fox looks up with gratitude, letting out a soft, appreciative whine. An notes that the creature is smart, understanding he is not a threat. He stands before the wolves, offering to let them go if they retreat. The wolves ignore his offer, responding with ferocious snarls and barks. With mouths agape, the entire wolf pack charges forward to attack. They surround An and the small fox, closing in for the kill. An, with a look of pure battle lust, prepares to counter their attack. Laughing, he declares them too slow as he easily dodges and strikes back. The battlefield is left stained black, the wolves defeated by his immense power. The little fox lets out a soft whimper, getting its savior's attention. It affectionately nudges his leg, its head bowed in gratitude and relief. An notices the fox has two tails, a rare trait, and remembers his potion. Rummaging through his magic bag, he finds the recovery potion he was looking for. He pours the healing liquid over the grateful fox's head, restoring it. The fox shakes itself off, and An can't help but think how cute it is. He asks the small, rare fox if it would like to become his companion. With a warm, inviting smile, he extends a hand, asking it to come with him. The fox is overjoyed, letting out a happy bark as a connection forms between them. An is startled, feeling a tangible bond has just been established. He admits this is his first time forming a subordinate contract, but it seems to have worked. He gently pets the fox, asking for its name to formalize their companionship. When the fox replies with a cry, he realizes it has no name and decides to call it Kitsu. He explains the name is inspired by its beautiful fur and its cry. Kitsu barks enthusiastically, clearly loving its new name. With their new partnership forged, An declares their first goal is to help Kitsu level up. Together, they charge forward, ready to face new challenges as a team. They fight side by side against a pack of wolves, a blur of coordinated motion. Kitsu proves to be a formidable fighter, dispatching a wolf on its own. The small fox lands gracefully after defeating another enemy with ease. An remarks on Kitsu's surprising strength, wondering if it could have handled the pack alone. Suddenly, Kitsu begins to glow, and An wonders if it's already evolving. Kitsu's eye flashes as it telepathically tells its master not to worry. The fox reassures An that it will stand guard while he rests and recuperates. Its body begins to contort and grow, enveloped in a brilliant, shimmering light. In a flash, its single fluffy tail splits and multiplies into two magnificent tails. The transformation continues, its form radiating a new, more potent energy. When the light subsides, a more majestic two-tailed fox stands in its place. An is overjoyed, confirming the evolution was a success and asking if Kitsu is all right. Kitsu gives a confident nod, ready for their next adventure together. An triumphantly declares they will level up as they head to their destination. The chapter title page is shown, Chapter 5, Promise and Determination 1. In a violent flash, Kitsu sinks its fangs into the neck of a unicorn-like creature. The unicorn cries out in distress as the attack connects with brutal force. The unicorn's eye widens in shock just before the impact. A massive explosion of pure white energy erupts from the point of contact. The destructive blast obliterates the scene in a blinding flash of light. An casually gestures, demonstrating his newfound control over magic. He praises Kitsu for being so strong, and the fox puffs its chest with pride. Their journey is interrupted by the sound of a frantically speeding wagon. An's cloak whips in the wind as he turns toward the sound. He kicks up a cloud of dust as he moves to intercept the approaching vehicle. He now holds the carcass of a freshly hunted unicorn-like beast, wondering about the commotion. A small raccoon-like beast person driving the wagon is surprised by his strength. The merchant introduces herself as Barubaru, explaining that she is a traveling merchant. An is delighted by her cute, lesser panda appearance, asking what kind of beastman she is. Barubaru nervously admits she has met beastmen before, but seems intimidated by An gets straight to the point, asking if she needs something from him. Barubaru explains that she wants to purchase the meat of the creature he's holding. She clarifies she needs the meat specifically, not the more valuable horn or fur. She explains that her hometown, Nyahal village, is suffering from a severe food shortage. Barubaru pleads that she needs to bring back as much food as she can. Moved by her story, An offers her the meat for free, startling her. Barubaru is overwhelmed by his kindness, tears welling in her eyes. He proposes a deal, offering to help in exchange for her future assistance. She eagerly promises to repay him and asks for his name. He introduces himself as An. Kitsu barks happily as if echoing its master's name. A small floating creature notes how cute it is that they are both named An. Barubaru agrees to call him Aun-san as he prepares to load her wagon. He reveals a massive pile of carcasses in his magic bag, calling it innards. Barubaru bows deeply, thanking him profusely for his incredible generosity. An waves her off, telling her to be careful on her journey back. With Barubaru gone, An turns to Kitsu, ready to continue their own quest. He tells Kitsu it's time for them to get going, their journey not yet over. They travel onward, their path taking them to a desolate, rocky landscape. An crouches, searching for something specific he is sure was in this area. He brushes aside some rocks, revealing what he was looking for. His eyes light up with excitement as he makes the discovery. Hidden on the ground is a large, intricate magic circle, glowing faintly. He turns to Kitsu, asking how it knew about this place. A brief flashback shows Kitsu, in a different form, having found the place by chance. With a look of dawning comprehension, the small fox Kix seems to understand. The hooded An initiates a telepathic call, asking if his companion Ars can hear him. Ars asks why An is unable to view the status of the fox demon he just contracted. Upon learning he can see the status by touching Kix, An is utterly amazed. He turns to his new companion, politely asking for permission to check its status. With a gentle motion, An places his hand upon the small fox's head. He smiles fondly, calling the creature cute as he mentally activates the command. A holographic screen materializes, revealing Kix's surprisingly high stats and skills. An stares in disbelief, muttering about the creature's outrageous abilities. He realizes Kix survived the wolf pack due to its innately high endurance. Its incredible intelligence, he concludes, is why it defeated them with magic so easily. Kneeling down, he praises Kix for being such an amazing magic user type. He suggests that Kix should focus on raising its intelligence even further from now on. To test his theory, An asks the small fox to use its healing magic on him. Kix obediently touches him with its paw, and a restorative energy flows forth. A status window confirms a recovery of 200 horsepower, leaving An shocked. He wonders aloud if the amount of healing changes based on the intelligence stat. A thrilling possibility emerges. Kix could evolve into a legendary class monster. He marvels at the prospect, telling his companion how amazing it is. With renewed purpose, he declares that this is now a shared goal for them both. He proposes that they aim for the legendary class together, his eyes gleaming. Kix responds with a joyous bark, its two tails wagging furiously in agreement. A confident, determined grin spreads across An's face as their path is set. He announces that they will now head into the dungeon for some hunting. They step into a dark, stone-walled corridor, a new chapter beginning. Kix lets out a soft, questioning whimper upon entering the unfamiliar area. An outlines their simple plan: defeat monsters and eat any that are edible. After asking if Kix can eat monster meat, the fox happily confirms it can. With a determined look, he signals for them to proceed deeper into the dungeon. A low, menacing growl suddenly echoes from the darkness just ahead of them. A snarling, ranky gray wolf emerges from the shadows, blocking their path. Before the wolf can even lunge forward, Kix leaps into action to intercept it. The small fox unleashes a powerful blast of magic, felling the beast instantly. An remarks on how tough the wolves must have been to have ganged up on Kix. He feels a strange sense of familiarity wash over him in this dungeon. He suddenly remembers that this is the place where he found his demon-slaying sword. A flashback shows his younger, human self celebrating the incredible find. On a sudden whim, he calls forth his own status to check his progress. The system confirms that he has now reached the impressive level 29. He recalls his past evolutions, anticipating that another one is likely imminent. Kix telepathically gets his attention, revealing that it too is a monster. The small fox explains that it can feel its own evolution is about to begin. It asks An to protect it during the vulnerable transformation process. Kix puffs out its chest with a confident yip, a gesture of complete trust. A warm smile touches An's face, moved by his companion's faith in him. Feeling glad he formed the contract, he agrees to help and gets to work. He swiftly dispatches a nearby ranky goblin to clear the immediate area. With efficient, brutal strikes, he continues to eliminate all remaining threats. His keen senses suddenly flare as he detects the final monster approaching. He clenches his teeth, knowing the pivotal moment has finally arrived. A lone gray wolf appears at the far end of the stone corridor. Kix informs him that the evolution is beginning and to leave the rest to it. The small fox gives a firm, confident nod of reassurance to its master. With a determined bark, Kix leaps forward, its body beginning to glow with power. An is shocked as an unexpected prompt appears in his own mind. He is presented with a choice of 4 elemental attributes for his evolution. With no time to think, he trusts his gut and instantly chooses thunder. Before he can process this, a second, even more shocking choice appears. He reels at the unbelievable option to undergo a special evolution into a human. He notes with intrigue that Reiki is not listed in any monster encyclopedia. Torn and conflicted, he stares at the options, wondering what he should do. He grits his teeth in frustration, his mind racing with the possibilities. But then his gaze falls on Kix, and he remembers the promise he just made. His resolve hardens, his eyes blazing with certainty. The answer is now obvious. With a powerful roar, he declares his choice. He will become a Reiki. The transformation completes, and he collapses to the floor, panting from the exertion. Kix, its own evolution paused, rushes to his side with a worried whimper. He slowly rises to his feet, reassuring his companion that he is all right. He notes with a small smile that his perspective is now a little higher. He asks Kix to stand guard for a few moments while he checks his status. With a determined shout, he calls forth the information about his new form. He is awestruck to find that he can now use magic and has incredible new skills. His eyes widen as he scans the list of powerful new abilities he has acquired. He analyzes the game-changing boons of his Reiki evolution, his mind racing. He quickly calculates the immense boost to his stats from his new skills. His strength and agility have been multiplied by more than 2.5 times. He declares with crazed excitement that this is not nearly enough power for him. Thanking Kicks, he decides he needs to test his new abilities in a wider space. He smashes through a solid stone wall with his massive spiked club. His immense power shatters the obstacle with a single, devastating blow. He and Kicks come to another dead end in the narrow dungeon corridor. After 2 hours of relentless smashing, he finally breaks through to a new area. Wiping his brow, he lets out a breath of relief, the path now clear. He announces that they can finally proceed to the next level of the dungeon. He looks down the newly opened passage leading to the second floor. They step into a vast chamber, only to be greeted by a surprising welcome. The floor is teeming with a massive horde of rank E monsters waiting for them. He smirks, stating that for him now, this is just a simple warm-up. Kicks steps forward, eager to show its own power and contribute to the fight. On gives a confident nod, telling Kicks to go wild and that he will save it if needed. With a determined cry, the small fox leaps into the heart of the monster horde. It dashes towards a nearby wall, a seemingly strange and unexpected tactic. Its body begins to glow and transform in a brilliant flash of light. On watches, wondering what kind of strategy his companion has in mind. The fox's form shifts and grows, becoming something much larger and more imposing. In a flash, it becomes a towering armored bipedal wolf warrior. With a mighty swing of its weapon, it unleashes a devastating area of effect attack. A huge swath of the monster horde is obliterated in a single brilliant blast. An praises his companion's impressive and clever tactical thinking. In mere moments, the room is cleared, the floor littered with defeated monsters. A small, multi-tailed fox stands triumphantly amidst a room of defeated monsters. The horned warrior, On, watches from the entrance, his expression one of surprise. His companion, Kicks the fox, turns to him with a look of clever satisfaction. On muses on Kicks' tactical brilliance, taking on a large group with such efficiency. He calls out in praise, acknowledging that his companion is truly impressive. The little fox yips happily, its mouth open in a cheerful cry. On is startled as Kicks begins to glow, wondering if another evolution is starting. The small creature is enveloped in a soft, shimmering light on the stone floor. On rushes to Kicks' side, asking to see its new status. He gently touches the fox, noting its race is now Kuko, or Sky Fox. On realizes Kicks has a new skill, Meichi, that boosts his own intelligence. He praises Kicks for its cleverness, suggesting they can check its status together now. With renewed purpose, he stands with Kicks, ready to move to the next area. On excitedly announces it's his turn to test his own new skills. He dashes down a long stone corridor, leading the way forward. Kicks trots happily behind him, letting out a cheerful yip. On winks, feeling a surge of confidence from his companion's new power. They emerge from the dungeon's dark entrance into a vast, open expanse. He realizes they are still inside the dungeon, in a sunless, simulated environment. As On scans the area, Kicks lets out a low warning growl. A pack of D-rank black wolves appears, looking like perfect test subjects. Facing the wolves, On readies his weapon, deciding this is a good opportunity. He channels his power, unleashing a crackling thunder orb attack. 3 orbs of lightning streak through the air toward the unsuspecting wolves. An orb connects with one of the wolves in a bright flash of energy. On expresses frustration that the attack wasn't enough to defeat them. A wolf shakes off the attack, its eyes glowing with a strange energy. On finds himself paralyzed mid-air, realizing it's a status effect. He marvels at the power of Kicks' buff, which helps him fight the effect. His movement suddenly returns, and he prepares to re-engage the enemy. He decides it's time to finish the fight, his weapon held high. A wolf throws its head back and lets out a ferocious howl. On activates his Jinrai skill, doubling his strength and agility. Kicks watches with pride, letting out a happy sparkle. On smirks, acknowledging that his companion is incredibly strong. After defeating the wolves, Kicks resolves to save their combo for the boss. In the distance, On spots a dilapidated stone tower. He speculates that the imposing vine-covered structure is the boss room. With a confident smirk, he prepares for what lies ahead. 2 hulking C-rank trolls and a pack of greater wolves guard the tower. On analyzes the threat, noting the trolls' powerful regenerative abilities. He instructs Kicks to handle the wolves while he takes on the trolls. Kicks gives a determined nod and springs into action to fight the wolves. On taunts the trolls, drawing their aggression with a wicked grin. He charges forward, a blur of motion against the lumbering giants. Activating Soden, he imbues his mace with crackling electrical energy. He easily dodges a clumsy club swing from one of the trolls. He lands a powerful, electrified blow on the troll's side. The troll recoils in pain, the wound smoking from the attack. On continues his high-speed assault, weaving between the troll's attacks. His gaze is sharp and focused as he presses his advantage. He notes the wound isn't healing, realizing their regeneration is slow. He mocks the troll for not even lasting 1 minute against him. He dodges another swing, the troll's club smashing harmlessly. The troll roars in frustration as On weaves around its attack. He closes in, his body low as he prepares a final blow. The spiked club glows with dark energy, aimed at the troll's head. The impact is immense, obliterating the troll in an explosion of force. With one troll down, he turns his attention to the last one. He decides to finish the last one off with his bare hands. He unleashes a furious volley of punches, overwhelming the final troll. He remarks that it only took 12 seconds to defeat all three. He turns to see Kix fighting, with two dark wolves barking aggressively. Suddenly, he hears a pained whimper and calls out Kix's name in alarm. He realizes he was being overprotective and should have helped sooner. A large beetle monster is sent flying away from Kix by an unseen force. Kix turns, looking exhausted and injured after the battle. The fur on a larger dark wolf bristles with aggression. The same wolf's fur stands on end as it prepares to act. A large dark-furred wolf stands protectively over the smaller Kix. Kix looks up at the larger wolf, a silent communication passing between them. The large wolf throws its head back and lets out a powerful howl. On watches from a distance as Kix communicates with its ally. On praises Kix for a tough fight, and Kix yips in response. They decide to rest for a bit before taking on the dungeon's boss. They discover a treasure chest before the massive doors of the boss room. Inside, they find the Earrings of Secrecy, a blue rarity item. On asks Kix if he can use them, noting their value for entering towns. With Kix's MP recovered, they prepare to enter the boss room. On places his hand on the heavy, ornate door, preparing to push. His expression is grim and determined as he opens the massive door. The doors creak open, revealing a dark, checkered corridor beyond. Two formidable B+ rank demons, Gozu and Meizu, await them inside. On decides they must be fought one at a time. He chooses the horse-headed Meizu as his first target. He instructs Kix to use magic to restrain the bull-headed Gozu. With a battle cry, he and Kix charge into the arena. He unleashes a crackling electric orb as his opening attack. Meizu seems surprised but is otherwise unfazed by the magical blast. On pulls up short, noting that his opponent is faster than he expected. He attacks with his mace, but Meizu blocks the blow with its forearm. The force of the impact sends shockwaves through the air. On is stunned by the demon's strength, its grip tightening on his weapon. Meizu realizes that despite being the same rank as a red ogre, On is stronger. On strains against the demon, wondering if he's facing an elite monster. The two are locked in a fierce stalemate, snarling at each other. A sudden distraction causes Meizu to flinch, creating an opening for On. On pauses, hearing a strange thud from across the room. He turns to see Kix lying motionless on the checkered floor. He rushes to his fallen companion's side, calling out its name in panic. A system interface materializes, displaying Kix's status as an unconscious sky fox. Cradling the small fox, On assesses her condition, concluding that she appears to be all right. As On gently strokes her head, the small creature lets out a soft whimper. Gently laying his companion down, An asks her to rest for a little while. His face contorts with quiet fury as he sees that he will never forgive them. He berates himself for misjudging the enemy's strength and merely observing them. Screaming with rage, he warns the demons not to expect an easy death. With blinding speed, he slams his electrified club into the bull-headed demon's side. A close-up shows the immense, crackling impact of the devastating blow. The mighty Gozu is sent flying backward from the sheer force of the strike. On prepares to unleash a volley of electric orbs as a tactical diversion. The magical spheres streak across the room, creating an opening for his assault. He unleashes a furious barrage of electrified blows upon the stunned demon, and continues his relentless, high-speed assault without a moment's pause. A final ground-shattering blow smashes the bull-headed demon into the stone floor. The defeated Gozu lies smoking and broken, its life force extinguished. On deftly uses his Sky Road skill, allowing him to jump again mid-air. The horse-headed warrior, Banotaro, calls out to his opponent from below, and braces himself as Banotaro stands ready, his katana held firmly. Banotaro warns him to watch closely, preparing to unleash a powerful attack. A storm of dark, slashing energy tears through the air towards On. On crashes violently against the far wall, the impact shattering the stone. He ricochets off the wall, his body taking another brutal impact. A third impact sends him tumbling into the floor with immense force. The aftermath shows both warriors lying defeated in separate, smoking craters. An painfully pushes himself up from the rubble, his body aching all over. He ignores his own pain, his ragged breath visible in the charged air. After a moment, he stands over the fallen Banotaro, catching his breath. His attention immediately shifts to his companion, anxiously calling out her name. A blindingly bright light suddenly erupts from Kix's unconscious form. An shouts Kix's name, shielding his eyes from the intense luminescence. He reaches out, commanding his status screen to appear for information. A system window flashes, showing Kix has reached level 30 and is evolving. The light swirls and coalesces around her, signaling the peak of her transformation. Where the fox lay, a young girl with long white hair now rests peacefully. A close-up shows her delicate, sparkling fox ears twitching slightly. Her long silver hair seems to shimmer with a new, ethereal light. The girl's eyes flutter open as An tentatively asks if she is Kix. An stares, his expression one of utter shock at his companion's transformation. The newly transformed Kix gives a small, confirming nod. She sits up, calmly speaking her name, Kix, with a serene smile. Her composure shatters as she realizes she's naked, her face flushing with panic. Kix frantically demands that An give her something to wear immediately. He scrambles to a chest, assuring her he'll find something suitable to wear. He exclaims his luck at finding a treasure chest in such a convenient spot. With a crazed grin, he declares that he will find some clothes for Kix. He grits his teeth with intense focus, determined to find a suitable outfit. A system screen displays the Akura Royal Japanese-style armor of red rarity. An explains to Kix that since the armor is for men, he will wear it. He offers Kix his own tattered cloak without a moment of hesitation. As An quickly changes into his new armor, Kix watches him. Kix's attention is drawn to a mysterious button on the nearby wall. An strikes a confident pose, asking Kix if his new armor looks good. Kix, wrapped in his old cloak, simply stares and murmurs his name. A new staircase suddenly appears in the floor, much to An's excitement. He excitedly tells Kix this must be the entrance to the core room. He invites her to go with him, and she agrees with a happy smile. Full of renewed energy, An leads the way down the stone steps. The dark, narrow staircase descends into a passage leading towards a bright light. Wiping some grime from his face, An follows Kix down into the dungeon's depths. They emerge into a sun-drenched chamber with a colossal tree and flowers. Kix points towards an ornate shrine, a faint light glinting from within. An immediately recognizes the object on the altar as the dungeon core. He stands with Kix before the shrine, his eyes fixed on the glowing orb. An snatches the glowing orb from its resting place with monstrous claws. He opens his mouth wide, preparing to swallow the entire core whole. With a decisive gulp, he consumes the dungeon core as Kix watches in shock. A brilliant light erupts from his chest as the core's power surges through him. A system message confirms the core's absorption and his new dungeon master status. He wonders what kind of core this is as it explodes with light. A wave of energy washes over him as he screams in agony. Kix watches in alarm as An cries out from the overwhelming power. A stitched-up wolf plushie pops out, yelping that it has just been eaten. An, in pain, commands the dungeon to prepare clothes for the beautiful girl. He grabs the plushie, his hand crackling with a strange energy. The plushie leans over him, offering a deal to align their interests. The terrified plushie quickly agrees to his demands, wiping away sweat. Kix watches as An uses points to rummage through a magical treasure chest. A beautiful yukata dress, navy, of red rarity materializes from the chest. The plushie eagerly tells Kix to go outside and get changed immediately. It notes that the dungeon master must be calling for the beautiful girl. The plushie formally introduces itself as Ifris, the Princevelt Dungeon Core, and shakes its hand, revealing he is also the master of Folenwall Dungeon. Ifris agrees to explain the new abilities An has gained from the core. An holds Ifris, who explains that he now has 2 new abilities. Ifris illustrates the Labyrinth Transfer ability, allowing movement between dungeons. It then explains Labyrinth Synchronization, which allows the sharing of points and resources. An confirms he understands the explanation, but questions their point reserves. He decides to entrust the management of this dungeon to Ifris for now. An muses that while he has a plan, its execution is still a ways off. Ifris agrees, stating that for now, they must focus on saving up points. Kix asks where they will rest, and An decides they'll return to Folenwall. Kix returns in her new yukata, happily saying she can now be with An. An introduces her to Ifris and asks to check her updated status. Kix agrees, and An gently places his hand on her head to begin. Her status reveals she is now a level 30 Tenko with powerful new skills. On is stunned by her increased magical power and new possibilities. He notes the incredible skill effects, especially her new humanization ability. He wonders if their experience points will now be shared between them. He concludes simply that Kix is now both incredibly cute and strong. On tells his companion Kix that she has become incredibly strong. He then suggests they return to the Fulanoral dungeon to rest for the day. With a determined grin, On announces that it's time for them to depart. A flash of light signifies their labyrinth transfer, teleporting them to the dungeon's core. They arrive on a serene bridge within the Fulanoral core room. The pig-like creature Ars zips towards them with a cheerful welcome back. Anne confirms their teleportation was successful and introduces his new companion, Kix. With a polite bow, Kix introduces herself, asking for Ars's goodwill. Ars fawns over how cute Kix is, while On asks him to prepare a room for her. On decides they are all tired and should talk in the morning after a good rest. Kix calls out to On, stopping him before he can leave. With an anxious expression, she asks if they can share a room. She nervously suggests they could just have 2 beds placed side by side. On looks hesitant, expressing his reluctance to the idea. Kix explains her deep-seated fear of sleeping alone and being abandoned. Looking flustered, On struggles with his decision, unsure what to do. The pig familiar wisely reminds On that reassuring his subordinates is a master's duty. With a sigh of resignation, On concedes that the pig is right. Kix's face lights up with pure relief and happiness at his agreement. In a tranquil room filled with glowing flowers, On wishes Kix a good night. A soft, muffled sound abruptly wakes On from his sleep. He turns his head to see Kix sleeping beside him. He notices with concern that tears are silently streaming down her face. As he watches her, he is pulled into the depths of her sorrowful dream. Her dream reveals a past life among a pack of fox demon beasts in a snowy landscape. She remembers a time when she was just like them, with pure white fur and a single tail. The memory shifts to a fateful day that changed her life forever. She recalls waking up to find her fur tinged with gold and having grown a second tail. Confused and not understanding why, she found herself different from everyone else. One of her own kind nips at her, the sharp pain a shocking betrayal. The pack surrounds her, cruelly declaring that she is no longer one of them. She desperately wishes she were still the same as her kin. The terrifying realization dawns that her own family intends to kill her. With a look of pained resolve, she flees from her former pack. Her inner thoughts scream that she is weak and powerless. Alone and unable to fight, she remembers only wanting to be with them. As she runs, she desperately wishes for friends and a family to call her own. Her paw steps onto new, unfamiliar ground, marking her solitary journey. She is soon confronted by a new threat, a pack of snarling wolf-type monsters. A bitter thought crosses her mind, envying the wolves for their shared appearance. She wonders if this is where her life will end, devoured by predators. Feeling weak, alone, and utterly exhausted, she resigns herself to her fate. The snarling wolves, all identical, seem to mock her isolation. The pack lunges, attacking her from all sides in a vicious, chaotic assault. She cries out, overwhelmed by the agonizing pain of the attack. As her life fades, a grim sense of finality washes over her. Her teeth grit together in a final act of defiance. A powerful surge of will makes her scream that she refuses to die. She is determined not to perish in such a lonely place, in such a way. She resolves to fight until her very last breath. A calm voice suddenly says hello, cutting through the desperate struggle. A mysterious hooded figure On asks if she needs any help. When she comes to her senses, the wolves are all dead around her. She is stunned by his immense strength, yet feels no fear. A cold potion is poured over her head, startling her back to reality. On observes her closely, noting that by all appearances, she is already dead. He then asks if she would be willing to become his companion. Kneeling, he extends a hand, inviting her to come with him. Her mind races, wondering if he is truly offering her companionship, a family. A brilliant light signifies her soul's fervent and immediate acceptance of his offer. She feels a profound and comforting warmth as a connection forms between them. He teaches her that their different forms don't matter, then gives her the name Kix. She finds the name beautiful and precious, a gift she will treasure. The dream continues, showing memories of them hunting together often. She fondly recalls evolving many times with his guidance. She remembers growing significantly stronger by his side. Most of all, she cherishes the memory of him always talking to her. Despite this, she feels she has done nothing to repay his kindness. An image of On crying for her fills her with a desperate need to be useful. With tears in her eyes, she wishes to be the same as On, to have his form. Her eyes flutter open, pulling her from the depths of the dream. She finds herself in her human form, on the floor with On looking down. She knows with certainty that even if she woke up different, On would not cast her out. She muses that being with On will surely bring many more number one moments into her life. She realizes that she doesn't have to be his only number one. She resolves that in her heart, On will always be number one, no matter what. She understands he will be important to others and wants to share his dream. Together with On, she vows with all her heart to become strong. Kix's eyes snap open, now fully awake and filled with a new resolve. A chapter title page shows On waking up to find Kix sleeping beside him. He reaches out and gently pets Kix's soft, twitching fox ears. He wonders if she is still sleeping, playfully nuzzling her fluffy hair. Kix's own eyes flutter open with a soft, sleepy sound. She wishes On a good morning, explaining she is just now realizing this isn't a dream. On smiles, genuinely happy and relieved for her. He announces he has something to discuss with Ars and Ifris, asking Kix to join. The two familiars greet them cheerfully, asking what the important discussion is about. On begins to explain his thoughts on everything that has happened and his plans for the future. Ars is shocked to learn that On was once a human adventurer who absorbed them. On states that after meeting the three of them, he understood he was no longer alone. With a confident smile, he declares his ultimate dream is to create a clan with his companions. He explains the Adventurers Guild has a system for creating official communities. He joyfully proclaims his desire to build the strongest, family-like clan with his trusted friends. The pig familiar gives a cheerful thumbs up, thinking the idea sounds very interesting. Kix smiles, understanding that On's dream has now become her own. The wolf familiar eagerly asks what he can do to help them achieve this goal. On lays out his plan to use the Folanoral Labyrinth as a clan house. The wolf familiar begins to explain the fundamental reason for a dungeon's existence. The bespectacled familiar clarifies that dungeons are responsible for circulating magical energy. He illustrates how the cycle of life and death creates magic that the dungeon efficiently circulates. On looks perplexed, asking his companions why they're discussing dungeon fundamentals now. His familiar, Ars, bluntly states that without circulating mana, no dungeon points can be gained. On listens as Ars explains that closing the entrance halts mana absorption, rendering it inoperable. His companions, Kix, Ifris, and Ars, look up at him, asking what he is thinking. On wonders if they can use Princefeld's points for Fullenwall, questioning if dungeons can sync. Ars is shocked by the novel idea, admitting it is a valid and powerful point. His companion Kix expresses her admiration for On's brilliant and unconventional thinking. The pig-like familiar, Ifris, admits that he has never heard of such a thing being done. From a high angle, his companions see that On has a new plan forming. On declares with a wild grin that their first step will be to build a town. He visualizes exposing the first floor and using points to build an inn and a tool shop. The plan includes placing a magic circle to teleport adventurers directly to the second floor. This clever ruse will deceive adventurers into thinking the dungeon starts on the floor above. On explains the self-sustaining cycle of attracting people and generating more and more points. His companions are amazed, realizing this means they could gain points almost limitlessly. Ars excitedly adds that a separate core could absorb ambient energy from the town unnoticed. On sobers, stating two problems remain: lack of personnel and their monstrous nature. He knows they must carefully manage information to gain adventurers' trust for their clan. Kix points out that On was once human, but his new form would require re-registration. On touches his horns, worrying that with them, he won't be perceived as human. A sudden realization about his horns strikes him. He recalls his grandmother speaking of a horned race, the Oni Jin from the land of Wa. On forms a new plan, deciding he can pose as an Oni Jin warrior on a journey. The pig familiar gulps nervously, having heard fearsome tales of the powerful Oni Jin. Kix explains the Oni Jin are legendary reclusive guardians, making the cover story perfect. Kix then asks about her own role, and On reassures her that her human form is fine. On decides he and Kix will go to the town of Lacria and register as adventurers. He instructs his familiars, Ars and Ifris, to continue earning points in their absence. On tells them all to stay in contact via telepathy, which they readily agree to. He tells Kix they will first return to Princefeld before heading towards the city of Lacria. The familiars watch as On and Kix activate the labyrinth transfer spell and vanish. They reappear in a wide open field under a vast sky, the teleportation a success. On notes the convenience of the Princefeld dungeon's rocky entrance being so close by. He tells Kix they will hunt on the way to Lacria so she can practice fighting. Kix gives a determined nod, understanding and agreeing to the training plan. On walks confidently, certain she will have no problems in combat. A flashback shows Kix facing two massive unicorn-like beasts in her fox form. The ferocious, horned beasts charge forward with menacing intent. Kix calmly gathers a powerful blast of pure energy in her hand. She unleashes a devastating attack, completely obliterating the monsters in a flash of light. In the present, On looks on with admiration, commenting on her amazing power. They stand over a smoldering crater as On notes her magic has grown much stronger. His expression suddenly shifts to one of alarm as his keen ears twitch. He spots a horse-drawn carriage speeding towards them in the distance. A large covered wagon, driven by a panicked beast person, barrels down the path. The driver, Harubaru, calls out to them as she frantically approaches. On and Kix turn to face the wagon, with On asking what is wrong. The wagon pulls up and Harubaru recognizes On, then asks about his companion. Harubaru realizes Kix is the fox demon she met before, now in human form. She is stunned by how cute Kix is, a first for a beast person she has seen. Kix dismisses the compliment, urgently asking Harubaru to please help On. On stands by, asking why she is in such a tremendous hurry. Harubaru explains with a grim expression that a dungeon has appeared near Nihal village. She cries out in panic that it's about to cause a monster stampede. On realizes this is the source of the recent surge in powerful monsters. Kix listens with a look of serious concern for the village's fate. Harubaru weeps, fearing her entire family and village will be annihilated. She offers On her entire fortune, desperately begging him to help. Overcome with emotion but resolved, Harubaru agrees to guide them to her village. On and Kix run alongside the speeding wagon as Harubaru thanks them profusely. On asks for the current status of the stampede and the monsters overflowing from it. Harubaru explains that the village's warriors are trying to hold the line for now. The village elder was attempting to organize an evacuation for all the residents. However, a significant portion of the villagers are refusing to abandon their homes. This internal conflict is making a desperate situation even worse for the village. On grimly assesses the bad situation, wondering what their next move should be. Kix suggests evacuating the villagers to their own dungeon, Princeveld, for safety. On's expression lights up, declaring that with that plan he can guarantee their safety. He asks if the remaining beastmen can handle the monsters, and Kix confidently affirms they can. Harubaru is shocked, asking where Princeveld is, as she has never heard of it. On asks Harubaru to swear on her life that she will keep their secret. Harubaru earnestly vows to protect the secret of the benefactors who are saving her people. On reveals he is a dungeon master, leaving Harubaru completely stunned by the revelation. He explains that Princeveld is a safe dungeon where they can take refuge. On now focuses on the tactical problem of defending the village during the evacuation. Harubaru readily agrees to follow his lead, admitting she is powerless on her own. He closes his eyes, telepathically contacting his familiars, Ars and Ifris, for information. They explain that they are on their way to Lacrea and also met Harubaru. On demands a detailed explanation of what a monster stampede entails. The familiars explain a stampede is a violent rampage caused by a lack of mana. The dungeon spawns countless monsters to fight and replenish its magical energy. The familiars ask if simply defeating all the emerging monsters will stop the stampede. On understands the rampage only truly ends when the dungeon's core is destroyed. He learns the monsters will arrive in 3 escalating waves over several days. With this grim knowledge, On's expression hardens as he finalizes his plan of action. He commands his familiars to immediately prepare 10 houses for the incoming refugees. He turns to Kix, warning her that her assigned role in the plan will be dangerous. Kix meets his gaze with unwavering confidence, giving a firm nod of agreement. Harubaru bows her head, apologizing profusely for dragging them into this dangerous mess. On waves off her apology, telling her to save it for after the mission is over. He roars with fierce determination that the Niharu village rescue mission has officially begun. Kix smiles with quiet, resolute confidence, ready for the challenge. Harubaru's eyes shine with newfound hope as the mission commences. The chapter title announces the start of the Niharu village rescue mission. On's determined eyes focus intently on their target in the distance. They crest a hill, spotting the besieged Niharu village below them. On confirms that the plan will proceed exactly as they discussed. Harubaru looks at him with pleading eyes, trusting him to save her people. Kix gives a silent, determined nod, ready to follow him into battle. The 3 of them charge down the hill, intent on saving the village. A fierce battle rages between various beastmen monsters, clashing with roars and weapons. The muscular bear-man warrior prepares to unleash a powerful fire-based magical attack. He swings his axe, sending a wave of fiery energy rushing forward. Kix leaps into action, creating a magical barrier to block the incoming attack. The barrier holds firm, effortlessly deflecting the powerful blast of the firewall. The Bearman stares in shock, realizing Kix has taken on the monster's assault. Kix's magic dissipates the attack completely, leaving her and her allies unharmed. On steps forward, calmly introducing himself to the surprised Beastman warriors. He issues a command for them to return to Nyaharu village and assist with the evacuation. The Bearman, Suman, looks on in confusion, questioning who these newcomers are. On explains that he heard the situation from Barubaru and criticizes their risky use of area magic. He challenges Suman, asking if ensuring the villagers' safety isn't their highest priority. Suman sighs, conceding that On is correct in his assessment of the situation. With a look of resignation, he apologizes and agrees to follow On's request. The Beastman warriors turn and run back towards the village to help their people. On brandishes his massive spiked club, asking with a grin if it's his turn to go wild. He calls out to Kix, entrusting her to eliminate any monsters he might miss. Kix confidently agrees, promising that she will ensure he is never hit. On's body erupts with crackling energy as he activates his Jinrai, Swift Thunder skill. A volley of arrows from winged monsters darkens the sky, aimed at the lone warrior. A Boarman monster swings its crude club, preparing to attack On. On moves with incredible speed, delivering a powerful blow that shatters the ground. He becomes a whirlwind of motion, effortlessly cutting through the monster horde. The defeated Boarman lies on the ground, its eyes lifeless. A reptilian monster readies its weapon, preparing to strike the relentless warrior. On lands another devastating punch, his face a mask of fierce concentration. His sharp, determined eye scans the battlefield for the next threat. He grimly notes that stronger, C-rank monsters are starting to join the fray. A fox-like monster observes from the rear, noting the higher rank of the waiting reinforcements. Amidst the chaos, On asks Kix about her remaining mana reserves. On is suddenly struck by a powerful jolt, his expression turning to shock. He clutches his chest in pain, letting out a sharp grunt of agony. Kix calls out his name in alarm as he realizes he's evolving at the worst possible moment. Gritting his teeth through the pain, On manages to say he understands the situation. Kix gives a confident smile, telling him to leave things to her. On apologizes for the trouble, his face contorted in pain. He entrusts the battlefield to his companion as the evolution takes hold. A system message announces that the evolution will begin without a choice of path. He is engulfed in light, the kanji for Rasetsu, Rakshasa, branding the air around him. The transformation complete, his eyes open, now sharper and glowing with new power. A status screen flickers before his vision, detailing his powerful new form. Kix calls his name, then declares she will now unleash her full power. She warns that she's using a new skill that might get him caught in the blast. She tells everyone to retreat and be ready to use Labyrinth Return to escape. On, now recovered, declares he is going and charges back into the fray. He faces down the remaining horde of monsters, his presence now more menacing. A lizard man monster roars, preparing to meet his charge. On's eye narrows, assessing the new balance of power on the field. A formidable B-rank monster notes that the enemy reinforcements have finally appeared. On grips his club, reassuring himself that the first wave is almost over. He promises an ogre-like beastman he will blow it away before it feels any pain. On carves a path through the monsters, his movements a blur of destruction. He unleashes his evolved skill, Raigeki, his club crackling with intense lightning. His expression is cold and focused, his new power fully under his control. The second phase of the Nyaharu village rescue mission officially begins. On swings his electrified club, sending monsters flying with each powerful blow. The battlefield becomes a chaotic whirlwind of energy as he unleashes his might. A close-up shows his eye, spattered with monster blood, focused and lethal. He decides the warm-up is over and prepares to shift his tactics. He begins to gather energy for a new spell, the evolved Raigyoku, Thunder Orb. He compresses a sphere of pure, unstable lightning between his hands. He raises the condensed orb of power above his head, ready to unleash it. The orb detonates, sending a shockwave of electrical energy across the battlefield. He uses his Sky Dance skill, hovering high above the monster horde below. He looks down at the swirling Tomo symbols, preparing his ultimate attack. With a ferocious roar, he declares this is his maximum output. He clenches his fist, channeling all his remaining power into a single point. He bellows the name of his ultimate attack, Nirvana Bottom King. A pillar of dark, destructive energy slams into the monster-filled battlefield. The ground shatters and explodes, a testament to the attack's immense power. Lingering tendrils of dark energy rise from the newly formed crater. Barbaru and the village chief watch the devastation with awe and shock. The massive, smoldering crater is all that remains of the monster horde. Drained but victorious, On prepares to relay the next phase of their plan. He explains that the stampede won't stop until the dungeon's core is destroyed. He tasks Barbaru with convincing the villagers to accept a temporary evacuation. While she does that, they will lead the evacuation to the vicinity of Plensfeld. A small dog-like creature notes the evacuation point's limited housing will be a challenge. Barbaru accepts the difficult mission, promising to persuade her people. On then moves on to their strategy for annihilating the remaining monsters. He declares that the main fighting force will consist of only himself and Kix. He adds the contingency that they must be prepared to retreat if necessary. He urges Barbaru to persuade the villagers as quickly as possible. Barbaru gives a firm nod, confirming she understands her critical role. Standing over the crater, On muses that he might have overdone the cleanup. He turns to Kix, asking if she is all right after the powerful blast. She reassures him that she is fine, as she was outside the attack's range. On announces that for now, they will return to Nyaharu village. Kix agrees, saying she will wait for him near the village. Waving goodbye, she watches as he heads back towards the village. On and Kix stand at the entrance to Nyaharu village. Barbaru spots them from a distance, her expression one of surprise. She runs towards them, calling out On's name with urgency. She asks if they are all right, as the village chief expresses his shock at what has happened. The chief correctly guesses that the powerful black lightning was On's doing. The chief confirms that the entire village has decided to evacuate. On urges them to depart immediately, as they only have a few days. He hesitates for a moment, having something else to add. The chief, Melmo, bows his head in gratitude for their help. He formally introduces himself and thanks them for saving the Beastman tribe. Anne deflects the praise, insisting Barbaru deserves the thanks for her desperate efforts. The first floor of the Prince of Elt dungeon is exposed, creating a small village for the refugees. Under Barbaru and Melmel's guidance, the Beastmen begin their mass exodus to the new location. Even the most stubborn villagers agree to evacuate after witnessing On's overwhelming magic. Anne laughs nervously, realizing he may have overdone it with his power display. He approaches Barbaru, asking if she has a moment to speak with him. He explains that he wants her to become one of their companions and help with their plans. Stunned, Barbaru questions if he really means for her to become a companion. She protests that she can't fight, but he smiles, assuring her she has a unique role. He admits he has no experience with management or fundraising, skills she excels at. Realizing her potential value, Barbaru understands how she can be of use to them. Her face lights up with joy as she eagerly asks to join their group. Anne is pleased by her enthusiastic acceptance of his offer. He proposes a formal, subordinate contract to expand what they can achieve together. Barbaru is surprised, wondering aloud about this necessary step for becoming a companion. Their hands clasp as Anne confirms the contract is now complete. A new chapter begins, focusing on and Kix's journey to become adventurers. The villagers of Nyahal arrive safely at their new home in Princevelt. The village elder, Melmel, gratefully credits Barbaru's efforts for their successful evacuation. He turns intending to ask Barbaru to become the new village's official representative. He looks around, however, and realizes she is nowhere to be seen. Barbaru walks alone through a field, her expression thoughtful as she heads to a new destination. She arrives in a breathtaking cavern, awestruck by the sight of a massive glowing tree. A wolf-like creature explains that this is the core room of the Princevelt Labyrinth. Having been briefed by On and Ars, Barbaru politely introduces herself to the dungeon's guardians. Anne gathers his core group, announcing it's time to explain their next strategy. He declares they will entrust the final resolution of the stampede to other adventurers. This provides a cover for the Beastmen's move and prevents their group from standing out. He states his desire to avoid any potential misunderstandings with the human factions. Anne tasks Barbaru with traveling to Lacrea to report the impending stampede. She is also to spread the prediction that the horde is heading towards Meralda. He explains that threatening the country's commercial heart will create a significant risk. This will force the guild and the nation's leadership to mobilize their forces quickly. While Barbaru is away, he and Kix will stall the horde to establish themselves as allies. Barbaru accepts her mission with determination, promising to head to Lacrea immediately. She wishes On and Kix well, telling them to be careful on their mission. Anne waves cheerfully, telling her to contact him if she runs into any trouble. Barbaru gives a deep, respectful bow before departing on her crucial task. On and Kix watch her go before turning to their own preparations. 2 days later, they wait at a midpoint between the abandoned village and Meralda. Reports confirm Barbaru's success, A massive subjugation force has been formed. The force is over 100 strong and includes the S-rank party Silver Sand Moon. On states their dual objectives: gain recognition and trigger Kix's next evolution. He notes that Kix's level has risen significantly from their recent monster subjugations. He instructs Kix that they will retreat to Folenwall as soon as her evolution begins. They agree to hold the front line just enough to be helpful without standing out. The ground trembles as the massive, roaring monster horde appears on the horizon. A vanguard of monstrous beasts surges forward, signaling the start of the stampede. Anne smirks with cool confidence, completely unfazed by the approaching army. His eyes narrow with intense focus as he declares that it's time to go. Anne effortlessly deflects a beast's claw while Kix unleashes a powerful blast of energy. A brutal, slashing attack tears across the battlefield, rendered as a maelstrom of black ink. The adventurers initiate their own chaotic battle against the monstrous horde. The leader of Silver Sand Moon observes the desperate struggle from horseback. He sees the massive explosions in the distance, understanding it's their cue to intervene. An confronts a group of adventurers, asking if they are the party he's heard of. A woman with horns introduces herself as Scold of the Silver Sand Moon. A dark-haired swordsman from her party charges forward, declaring they will lend their aid. Anne explains that his traveling party was suddenly ambushed by the monster horde. The dark-haired swordsman raises his weapon, his expression grim and focused. Scold directs him to one side of the battlefield and he dashes off to engage. A spear-wielding lizard monster lunges forward to meet his determined charge. The swordsman cleaves through it in a brutal spray of dark, splattering blood. He continues his relentless charge, felling another beast as a griffin swoops down. His face is a mask of cold determination as he carves a path through the enemies. From his perspective, the battle is a whirlwind of chaotic, overwhelming motion. He lets out a quiet sound of exertion as his blade whistles through the air. From a distance, another group of adventurers on horseback recognizes the battle. Their leader shouts for them to join the fray and lend their support. A chaotic scene shows the adventurers being completely swarmed from all sides. The fighting is desperate and brutal, with warriors struggling against hulking monsters. An adventurer is sent flying by a powerful blow from a massive beast. Another adventurer scrambles on the ground, trying to evade an imminent attack. He cries out in terror as an ogre-like monster raises its whip to strike. A pair of hands gathers magical energy, preparing to intervene in the nick of time. Kix unleashes a powerful beam of energy, saving the downed adventurer from certain death. The blast obliterates the monster, and Kix quietly notes her own growing strength. Her eyes suddenly widens as she senses a profound change beginning within herself. Anne recognizes the signs immediately, realizing her evolution is starting. Kix confirms she is returning to the labyrinth, and Anne agrees to follow her. Anne stands alone on a bridge in the tranquil, garden-like core room of his dungeon. He senses a presence behind him and turns his head in surprise. A massive nine-tailed white fox, Kix, is sleeping peacefully on the stone floor. Anne runs eagerly across the bridge towards his newly evolved and magnificent companion. He reaches the giant creature, marveling at how big she has become this time. He gently strokes her fur, telling her how big, fluffy, and cute she is. The giant fox's eye snaps open with a cute, almost cartoonish sound effect. A brilliant flash of light surrounds the fox, startling Anne with its intensity. Kix transforms into her humanoid form, stretching and noting that she looks the same. Anne is momentarily stunned by her unchanged appearance after such a dramatic evolution. A status screen details her new race, Fairy Fox, and her powerful new skills. Kix beams with pride, stating that their party is now perfectly balanced and stable. Anne decides to leave the rest of the stampede to the other adventurers. He and Kix begin expanding and preparing the Princeveld dungeon for future use. 3 days later, a report arrives from their companion, Barbal. The Silver Sand Moon party has destroyed the dungeon's core, stopping the stampede. Barbal teleports back into the Folenwall Labyrinth's core room, announcing her return. Anne greets her, asking for an update on the situation in the town of Lacria. She confirms that the stampede was stopped by the Silver Sand Moon party. A dark-haired man states that only his party knows about the core's destruction. A formal man declares that adventurers will be rewarded based on their work for the country. Barbaru cheerfully reports that for her quick information, she received a large magic bag. She also relays a spreading rumor about an incredibly strong traveler who aided them. Anne smiles wryly, remarking that things are proceeding just as he'd frighteningly hoped. With a determined glint in his eye, he declares it's his turn to act. Anne explains that he used the surplus dungeon points to expand Friendswelt to 8 floors. A diagram illustrates the strategic placement of monsters on each of the new floors. He elaborates that the first 5 floors are designed for novice adventurers to level up. Barubaru breathes a sigh of relief, realizing the Beastman village is now safe. The village elder confirms their food supply is stable, and their warriors are hunting successfully. On commissions the elder to construct a shop and an inn, entrusting him with the task. Barubaru is shocked when On declares that she will be the new shopkeeper. He explains that he will use his old human savings for the initial investment. The village elder then formally asks On to become the village's official representative. On informs Barubaru of his plan to build a new dungeon entrance in the village. He asks if she can handle the responsibility, and she enthusiastically agrees to try. The pig-like creature, Ars, asks what their roles will be in this new plan. The dog-like creature, Ifris, is tasked with managing the dungeon's points and expansion. On announces that he and Kix will now head to Lacria to register as adventurers. Their first goal is to achieve B rank, a crucial step toward establishing their clan. Kix looks at him with a determined expression, silently agreeing to the plan. On entrusts the rest of the work to his loyal companions, who accept with gusto. The Beastkin villagers diligently work, reviewing blueprints and managing resources. Ars, the pig familiar, floats around the newly constructed clan house, overseeing the work. Ifris, the dog familiar, stands guard over a treasure chest protecting their assets. On and Kix embark on their journey, traveling across a vast mountainous landscape. The two walk together through the open plains, heading towards the distant city. They finally arrive at the bustling, medieval-style streets of the town of Lacria. Walking through the crowded city, they draw many stares due to their unusual appearances. On's determined, concentric ringed eye scans the area as they proceed. They soon arrive at the large, imposing building of the Lacria Adventurers Guild. As they enter the guild hall, an adventurer remarks that it has been a while. The swordsman Helbin and his companion Grace spot them, surprised by their arrival. On looks annoyed, wanting to avoid any trouble, but is recognized. Helbin rushes forward, thanking On profusely for his help during the monster stampede. On explains they've come to register, so Helbin eagerly offers to guide them. A guild receptionist intercepts them, informing them the guildmaster is waiting. Entering the office, the guildmaster acknowledges the rumored travelers have arrived. A large scarred man introduces himself as Spares, the guildmaster of the town. From his office, he looks up and welcomes the two adventurers into his presence. Spar's face is shown in a close-up, his expression a confident, knowing smirk. The title page introduces the chapter, The Crimson Maid One, as they stand in his office. On and Kix stand silently, their expressions blank as they face the guildmaster. In the main hall, On introduces himself and Kix, stating their intent to register. Spars laughs, revealing he's a former adventurer and is intrigued by their reputation. Other adventurers gossip about the duo, recalling how incredibly strong they were. Spars challenges them directly, asking them to demonstrate their rumored power. He offers to let them skip ranks, a proposition that shocks On. On eagerly accepts the offer, and Spars agrees to the test. Spars leads them from his office, telling them to follow him. He guides On and Kix down a set of cold, echoing stone stairs. The two companions follow with determined expressions, ready for the challenge. They emerge into a large underground training area, welcomed by Spars. Spars instructs his aide, Lobby, to have the gathered B-rank adventurers spar with them. On interjects, questioning the plan and asking if Spars has considered the consequences. Kix calmly points out that her magic is powerful and could be dangerous for the others. Spars reconsiders and instead points to a large magical target on the wall. He explains that seeing her magic's power on the target will be sufficient. On cautions Kix not to use her most powerful Mito magic, and she agrees. The other adventurers watch with skepticism as Kix prepares to cast her spell. Kix focuses her energy, serenely chanting the name of her spell, Flame Lance. A massive concussive blast of energy slams into the reinforced magical target. Spars and a previously smug adventurer are left utterly speechless with shock. The target, now a smoldering ruin, is completely obliterated by the attack. Kix calmly lowers her hand, looking slightly dissatisfied with the result. The onlookers marvel at the incredible power that destroyed the reinforced target. Kix smirks, privately noting that her magical power is even stronger than On's. The once skeptical adventurers are now terrified, realizing her power is beyond their comprehension. On cracks his knuckles with a wide, eager grin, announcing it's his turn. Spars introduces the B-rank adventurer, Glyzer of the Iron Wall, as a benchmark. A new crystalline target, made from ogre-class ore, is brought out for the physical test. On asks if it's all right for him to destroy this target as well. He declares he won't even use a buffing skill and prepares to strike. With a single explosive punch, On completely pulverizes the durable crystal target. Spars and Gleiser are once again frozen with their jaws agape in awe and terror. Kix beams with pure pride, silently cheering for her companion's incredible strength. All that remains of the target is a pile of glittering rubble on its pedestal. On casually asks if that was sufficient, as Spars admits he's seen enough. On asks what rank they have earned from this impressive display of power. Spars declares that they will be registered as C-rank adventurers. He explains that guild rules only allow a jump from F rank to C rank at most. He directs them to the reception desk to receive their new adventurer cards. As they turn to leave, Spars asks them to return to his office for a moment. Back in his private room, he drops the pretense and asks them directly who they are. On smirks, admitting he'd been wondering how to explain their origins. He reveals that he is from the Ogre Beastman tribe, and Kix is a Fox Beastman. He explains they grew up in a dangerous forest, surviving by fighting monsters. Their harsh upbringing in the forest is the source of their immense power. Spars is stunned by the revelation that On is from the legendary Ogre tribe. A look of understanding dawns on his face as he comprehends their incredible strength. He reassures them they don't seem like bad people and that he has no worries. Spars extends his hand to On, and they seal their new understanding with a firm handshake. At the reception desk, they are officially presented with their new adventurer cards. The gleaming silver plates confirm their status as C-rank adventurers, On and Kix. They proudly hold up their new cards, On with a wide grin and Kix with a soft smile. Outside the guild, On celebrates, ecstatic to finally be an adventurer again. He enthusiastically suggests they go shopping for a magic bag. Kix agrees, noting that they needed to restock their potions anyway. On declares they should explore the town, ready for their new life as adventurers. The two are seen browsing a shop, looking at an assortment of bags and pouches. At a shop, the horned adventurer and his companion finish restocking their potions. The duo walks down the street with On proposing a visit to an accessory shop. Their walk is interrupted as a timid voice calls out, causing them both to pause. Facing the armored figure, On directly asks if she has business with them. The armored maid, holding a shield and halberd, stammers as she tries to speak. Her massive halberd gleams as she struggles to find the right words to say. With sudden intensity, she declares that she has something she must discuss with him. In a dramatic display, she throws herself to the ground, perplexing On and Kix. She introduces herself with a self-deprecating term, still bowing her head to the floor. In a gesture of ultimate supplication, she bows deeply, pleading for their audience. On is utterly bewildered by the strange woman's intense and bizarre behavior. A crowd gathers and On panics, wondering what to do about the spectacle. Kix gently addresses the woman, placing a hand on her head to get her attention. She points out that the woman's actions are causing On a great deal of trouble. The maid suggests they find a quieter place to talk, away from the prying eyes. Reluctantly, On and Kix lead the strange woman away from the curious onlookers. Kix follows, her expression thoughtful as she trails behind the armored maid. On asks Kix if she thinks this woman is all right, a worried look on his face. The maid's stoic expression gives nothing away as she walks ahead of them. Kix replies that she doesn't seem like a bad person, just overwhelmingly intense. They arrive at a quiet outdoor cafe, hoping to have a calm discussion. On stares into his teacup, his troubled reflection looking back at him. The maid suddenly appears, announcing she has finally found him after a long search. She lunges forward, declaring her purpose is for him to eat her. On clutches his head in pain as Kix calmly asks the woman who she is. The armored maid nervously explains that she is a former orc guard. She recounts that he once called her a pigman, but she was too immature then. The words trigger a memory, and On recalls the orc guard from Fullenwall. She proudly states she is now an orc queen and introduces herself as Sink. Kix quietly processes this, realizing with a start that the pigman was a woman. On introduces himself and Kix properly, trying to ease the awkward situation. He kindly tells the anxious Sink that they have time and invites her to talk. The group settles in at the cafe table, ready to hear Sink's story. A quiet moment passes as they wait for the tale to begin. On reflects on the strange series of events that brought them all here. He asks why she is so fixated on him, and she explains her past inadequacy. With fervent passion, she declares she has trained tirelessly to be worthy of him. She insists that being needed is too presumptuous. She would be happy just to be eaten. With a warm smile, Kix suggests that Sink should become their comrade instead. She acknowledges Sink's immense effort, but notes her common sense is a bit skewed. Sink looks down, dejected, quietly asking if her purpose is being denied. A glimmer of hope appears in her eyes as Kix's offer begins to sink in. On agrees, asking if she would be willing to help him alongside Kix. Overwhelmed with emotion, Sink thanks them both, tears welling in her eyes. With a radiant, tearful smile, she accepts their offer to join their group. Her story begins, a flashback to her life as a nameless orc guard. She recalls envying the other orcs who were consumed to become her master's nourishment. She remembers him calling her Butayaro, a name she wished to embody for him. Her sole desire was to be made delicious and offered to her master. After their first encounter, a great change occurred within her, driving her forward. She peered down a dungeon corridor, seeing her master preparing to head outside. He was with other orcs who seemed to be some kind of traitors. The traitors were being commanded to not let the others escape. Her master gave a cold command for them to be killed as they charged. She stood her ground, facing down the charging orcs in the narrow hallway. With her shield raised, she braced for the inevitable impact of their attack. Her master's devastating punch shattered another orc's shield with a single blow. She understood then that her mission was to become strong enough to be eaten. There could be no room for pity or weakness in pursuit of her goal. That night, she ventured into a dark forest to begin her arduous training. She hunted weak monsters, her body beginning to change with each victory. A surge of power coursed through her as she began to transform. With a flash of light, she evolved, her form growing stronger. She had become a guardian orc, a more powerful version of herself. Her appearance changed slightly, her hair growing longer as she leveled up. Hiding in the bushes, she observed a group of human adventurers. She overheard one man discussing his fondness for voluptuous women. Another commented that such a woman made him want to eat her up. She realized that just being strong wasn't enough to be truly desirable. This was it, the secret technique to make herself truly delicious for her master. She began to secretly study the adventurers, her new teachers, all night long. Attempting to emulate a more feminine gait, she practiced a stiff, awkward walk. Her form was still monstrous, but her determination was absolute. The next day, she continued her strange training, seeking more strength. She left her familiar territory, venturing into the forest of everlasting darkness. She encountered a pair of adventurers who were startled by her appearance. They immediately turned and fled, shouting at each other to run. One of the adventurers held a large halberd, determined to fight. His companion yelled that it was no use and they had to retreat. They fled, leaving something behind in the tall grass. The orc guard noticed the abandoned item with a start. Lying in the grass was the adventurer's halberd, a lost item. With a firm grip, she picked up the gleaming weapon. Deciding to borrow it, she continued on her journey, newly armed. Several days later, her travels led her to a new place. She stopped, sensing something unusual in the area ahead. In a clearing, she discovered a glowing magic circle, a dungeon entrance. With a surge of determination, she decided to challenge the dungeon. She fought her way through, eventually reaching the boss room. She managed to defeat the barrel-wearing orc inside, but it wasn't enough. Knowing she still needed more training, she decided to challenge it again. She began her second run through the dungeon, growing more adept. Her third run showed her increasing skill and confidence in battle. By her fourth run, she was a seasoned warrior, her body battered but strong. She realized that she could now defeat the boss with relative ease. After another victory, she felt a strange heat building within her body. Her form began to change again, her hair growing long and flowing. She had evolved, her power surging as she became an orc queen. She swayed unsteadily, her appearance completely transformed once more. In a sun-dappled clearing, she finally paused, thinking how pleasant the wind felt. In a dense forest, a formidable orc queen with long, flowing hair decides to check her status. Her ear twitches with keen awareness as she resolves to confirm her current condition. A young adventurer encourages his companion, while a hidden fox spirit spies on them. Suddenly, a massive clawed hand slams down into the ground with terrifying force. The two adventurers gasp in shock and surprise at the sudden, monstrous interruption. The imposing Crimson Orc Queen emerges from the foliage, annoyed at being discovered. She recalls how adventurers have always fled from her in terror. A flashback shows terrified adventurers shouting that the Crimson has appeared. She remembers how various adventurers have called her by that name and run away. Her fox spirit companion cheerfully suggests the name Shinku, Crimson, is quite cute. The spirit recalls that adventurers use a status screen and suggests Shinku try it. Focusing her intent, Shinku successfully summons her own glowing status window. She realizes this screen displays all sorts of information about herself. Under her skills, she is shocked to find an entry for humanification. Puzzled, she wonders what kind of skill this could possibly be and decides to try it. She activates the skill, and a brilliant light begins to envelop her. The transformation starts, a shimmering energy reshaping her powerful form. The light intensifies as the magical process continues its work. Her muscular frame begins to soften and take on a new, more slender shape. Her large clawed feet shrink, morphing into delicate human ones. The chapter title reveals this is the soliloquy of a maiden in love. Gazing at her new, smaller hands, she gasps in utter astonishment. Her human form is revealed, and she exclaims in wonder at her new appearance. She clenches her fist, marveling at the strength she can feel even in this form. With this disguise, she resolves to learn more about humans by going into town. Full of determination, she breaks into a run, her long hair flying behind her. In the distance, she spots two female adventurers and decides to question them. The two women are startled as they hear someone approaching them from behind. Completely naked, she runs towards them, asking them to wait for a moment. One adventurer demands to know what she is doing, while the other offers her a cloak. Huddled in the cloak, she sheepishly confirms that she was indeed without clothes. The kind adventurer assures her it's all right now that she is covered. She recounts grim stories she's heard about the dangers female adventurers face. Her new companions reassure her, vowing to escort her safely to town. She remembers that she left her halberd and shield behind in a dungeon. Her friends agree to help her retrieve her forgotten equipment. The scene shows the abandoned halberd and shield lying on the ground. The three women travel together, consulting a map as they go. Later, they are seen resting together around a crackling campfire. She remembers her original question and timidly decides to ask her new friends. She asks them if they know the meaning of the word bankuban. Her two companions burst into laughter at the unexpected question. She wonders if she asked something strange or amusing. The blonde adventurer looks at her seriously and reveals the term refers to her. She looks down at her own hands, realizing she has unknowingly acquired this quality. Her friends find the entire situation amusing as she processes the revelation. They arrive at the bustling town of Lacria, which amazes her with its sights. Her companions prepare to part ways, encouraging her to live strongly. As they turn to leave, she is struck by a new, powerful desire. She grabs the blonde adventurer's arm, getting her attention. Her eyes burning with resolve, she declares she wants to become an adventurer too. Moved by her passion, the adventurers agree and take her to the local guild. A guild employee thanks her, explaining she has learned a lot from her. She registers as an adventurer, retrieving her shield and halberd. A montage shows her successfully completing quests and quickly rising in rank. The guild employee congratulates her on her promotion to C rank. She reflects that, for someone who has acquired bankuban, this was an easy task. Despite her success, she feels something is still missing from her life. On the plains, she wonders if she can find any maids around. An intimidating warrior named Smash aggressively demands to be taught about Mado. Smash introduces herself and declares she will save the world. She is taken aback by the warrior's sudden and intense declaration. The warrior, mistaking her confusion for arrogance, runs off in a huff. A flashback shows a guild employee questioning her desire to become a maid. The employee suggests she could get a good job as an adventurer instead. She uses her quest money to commission a custom-made maid outfit from an armorer. Two men in town stare in shock at her new unique appearance. She walks through the streets, now clad in her battle-maid attire. Her final goal is clear: to confess her feelings to the one she admires. In a library, she looks for a place to leave a memento. She decides to leave behind a notebook filled with her knowledge and experiences. She carefully places the handwritten journal on a shelf. She hopes her story will serve as a guide for other wandering women. A horned, red-haired woman walking by stops, her interest piqued. The woman notes a sweet, fragrant aroma coming from the book. The horned man, spots her as she approaches with her party. The maid Sink announces she has finished her story and must now depart. With a determined blush, she declares she is heading to her final grand stage. Stretches, feeling strange walking alone after being with his group. He muses that he has become accustomed to having kicks by his side. His companions explain they are returning to Folenwall while he shops for accessories. In a jewelry shop, he gazes at a sparkling display of expensive items. He considers that he needs an item to conceal his monstrous nature. He is dismayed by the exorbitant prices, which range from 2 to 10 gold coins. He falls silent, realizing the items are far too costly for him. He leaves the jewelry shop, sighing in disappointment. He considers using his dungeon points but wants to save them for renovations. An idea strikes him. He remembers that armor shops sometimes carry accessories. He wonders if he might find a few decorative items there. He decides to check the nearby armor shop on a whim. Inside, his eyes light up as he immediately discovers a display of accessories. His appraisal eye glows as he focuses on the items. He excitedly finds a basket of concealment rings and concealment necklaces. He happily buys 3 items for a single gold coin and heads out. His next destination is the imposing Adventurers Guild building. With his party busy, he decides to take on a C-rank quest alone. His eyes scan the quest board, quickly landing on an interesting notice. The quest is a rare exploration and investigation request in Morphia Forest. He finds it unusual as most C-rank quests are for monster subjugation. He takes the request from the board, deciding to get more details. At the Adventurers Guild, On asks a receptionist about an investigation-only quest. The staffer explains the quest concerns recent, strange ecological changes in Morphia Forest. She elaborates that the forest is usually home to C and D-rank monsters. However, there have been multiple reports of monsters from the Red Valley appearing. This alarming situation is why the Guild's current priority is only investigation. On asks about fighting, but she notes it's too dangerous for a C-rank adventurer. A flicker of recognition crosses her face as she asks if he is the famous On. He confirms, and she mentions his growing reputation, advising him to be careful. With a formal stamp, his acceptance of the quest is officially recorded. Having left the city, On walks across a plain toward distant mountains. He spots the forest in the distance, correctly guessing it's his destination. Upon arriving, he confirms this is the unsettlingly quiet Morphia Forest. His senses suddenly flare, alerting him to a frantic disturbance nearby. 2 terrified female adventurers burst from the dense foliage. One of them, looking at him in shock, asks what has happened. On calmly inquires about the trouble, but the other woman just screams to run. The panicked adventurer stammers that a monstrous big scorpion is coming. A massive B-rank big scorpion emerges, its appearance terrifying the 2 women. On calmly instructs the women to flee while he confronts the beast. He brandishes his mace, which begins to glow with an ominous, curse thunder energy. Leaping high into the air, he soars directly toward the monstrous scorpion. From a safe distance, the 2 adventurers watch the scene, their faces frozen in shock. With a ferocious battle cry, On prepares to bring his weapon down. The glowing mace descends with incredible speed, aimed at the scorpion's head. The weapon makes impact, smashing into the creature's tough carapace. The blow creates a massive, violent explosion of energy and shattered earth. A close-up shows the spiked mace crushing the monster's heavy armor. On's expression is one of pure, focused intensity as he presses his attack. The 2 women can only stare in stunned awe at the overwhelming display of power. Standing over the defeated beast, On remarks that the fight took longer than he expected. The women approach, thanking him and admitting they thought they were going to die. He dismisses their thanks, grimly confirming the forest's ecosystem is indeed collapsing. The women agree, noting things were normal when they last encountered someone named Shinku. On looks confused by the name, while one of the women gushes over his beauty. He tells them to report to the guild, explaining he will investigate further. Just as they're leaving, one of the women shyly asks for his name. With a confident fang grin, he introduces himself as On. They exchange waves and words of encouragement as they part ways in the forest. Alone again, On prepares to continue his hunt, shouldering his heavy mace. He swiftly engages another large scorpion in a blur of deadly motion. In another encounter, he fells a massive, snarling bear-like beast with a single swing. A dynamic shows him poised for another brutal, decisive attack. He stands over a fallen bear, having defeated 9 B-rank monsters in total. He reflects that in over 10 years as an adventurer, he's never seen such a collapse. Carrying a slain beast, his expression is grim as he ponders the situation. A dragon's silhouette appears over the distant, ominous Red Valley Mountains. Having gathered enough information, On decides it's time to head back. He returns to the guild hall, preparing to deliver his comprehensive report. He informs the receptionist that Red Valley monsters have indeed invaded the forest. She confirms the other party reported the same, claiming to have defeated their foes. On then reveals he has brought back 9 B-rank carcasses as proof of his own work. The flustered receptionist quickly agrees to accompany him to the dismantling room. As they approach the door, his companion Kix appears, offering to help. Inside the room, the receptionist asks where she should have him place the monster bodies. A cat-like butcher enthusiastically offers to handle the dismantling of the beasts. On informs the shocked butcher that there are 6 more carcasses of the same size. He calmly instructs the butcher to retrieve the rest from the back room. The butcher and the receptionist exchange a silent, utterly stunned look. The butcher is amazed, noting the sheer quantity of monsters On has brought back. He comments that this is an unbelievable haul for just half a day's work. The cat man sweats nervously, impressed by the adventurer's incredible power. He promises to buy all the materials at a premium, which On gratefully accepts. On confirms his report is finished, and the receptionist promises to inform the guildmaster. His quest is officially stamped as complete on the guild's documents. The receptionist informs him that his reward and payment will be ready tomorrow. With his business concluded for the day, On leaves the guild hall. The scene lingers on the empty corridor, now quiet after the day's excitement. On returns to his lodgings, stretching and announcing his arrival. He sees his companions, Kix and Sink, happily chatting at a nearby table. Kix turns, her fox ears twitching as she senses his presence. Both Kix and Sink greet him warmly, welcoming him back from his quest. On asks if Sink's explanation to Kix is finished, impressed by her intelligence. Sink excitedly confirms she will be joining their activities starting tomorrow. On reveals he has something important he needs to give to both of them. He presents them with a beautiful necklace and ring that have status hiding effects. Sink explains that they must always wear them when they go into town. Kix clutches the gifts to her chest, thanking him and promising to always wear them. Sink is moved to tears, thanking him profusely for the precious and thoughtful gift. On excitedly declares their plan to blast through quests and quickly reach B rank. This prompts him to ask his companions for suggestions for their new party name. Kix closes her eyes deep in thought as she considers a fitting name for their group. An idea suddenly strikes her as she recalls one of On's powerful spells. She envisions his incredible black haze magic, a swirling vortex of dark energy. With a bright smile, she proposes the name Black Haze for their party. On is instantly captivated by the name, and Sink agrees that it's a wonderful choice. With a look of firm resolve, On declares that the name is officially decided. Kix looks forward to registering their new 3-person party the next day. Sink shares in the excitement, ready for their official registration as a team. On bids the girls goodnight, telling them he is heading to bed first. He lies in bed with his hands behind his head, feeling content and relaxed. From the other room, he can hear Kix and Sink happily chatting and laughing together. A fond smile touches his lips as he thinks how nice it is that they've become friends. He drifts off into a peaceful sleep, tucked under the warm covers. The scene pans out to a majestic view of mountains under a vast, starry night sky. As night passes, the first light of dawn breaks over the distant mountain peaks. On's eyes snap open, his consciousness returning as he wakes from his slumber. He sits up slowly in bed, feeling a bit disoriented. Turning his head, he discovers that Kix has snuck into his bed and is fast asleep. He thinks to himself how cute and innocent she looks, sleeping beside him. Carefully, so as not to wake her, he slips out of bed and quietly leaves the room. A wooden door creaks open, revealing the armored maid Sink standing in the doorway. Sink cheerfully presents a plate of food to a smiling, newly awakened On. The camera focuses on the delicious-looking breakfast of rice, soup, and bread. On leans on the table, marveling at the food and asking if Sink prepared it. With a proud expression, Sink explains that her master Ars had built a kitchen for her. She bows, hoping he enjoys the meal, as On pats her head reassuringly. On then asks if she would be willing to handle all of their meals from now on. Overwhelmed with emotion, tears of pure joy stream down Sink's face. Their fox-eared companion Kix peeks into the room as Sink accepts the great honor. On points out that Kix has woken up, and the overjoyed Sink rushes to greet her. With a pleased wink, On watches his 2 companions become fast friends. A sparkling plate of food, complete with thick-cut bacon, sits ready on the table. Sink gives a still drowsy Kix an enthusiastic hug, wishing her a good morning. The raccoon-like Barbal arrives, greeting the group as they gather around the table. On, seeing that everyone is present, cheerfully suggests they all eat together. The entire party sits at the large dining table, ready to enjoy their communal breakfast. The chapter titled Dragon Attack 1 is displayed over a large guild-like building. Inside the Adventurers Guild, the party stands before a bustling quest board. Kix calmly states that they will proceed just as they had planned. On adds with a confident grin that they will complete many quests. Sink finishes the thought, declaring their goal to quickly reach B rank. A dynamic montage shows the determined party completing numerous quests. More completed quest forms, featuring their portraits, fly across the screen. The montage includes images of On and a shocked guildmaster Sparus. A smiling receptionist stands before the guild, calling out their names. She warmly congratulates them on officially becoming B rank adventurers. On holds his new rank plate, thinking back to his dream from childhood. Kix recalls their goal of having companions they can trust like family. Sink remembers their shared dream of creating the very best clan. Outside the guild, an ecstatic Kix and Sink dance and celebrate their achievement. On smiles, realizing this is a memorable day and the first step toward his dream. Back at the reception desk, On formally requests to establish an official clan. The camera pans down the guild's grand wooden staircase. On learns the review process for a new clan will take about 10 days. He reflects on how he had given up on this dream when he was human. Kix smiles, thinking that now they can all grow stronger together. Sync clenches her fist, vowing to do her best to be useful to their cause. On muses happily that becoming a monster was a great turn of events for him. Suddenly, an injured man stumbles weakly through the guild doors. On's expression turns sharp and serious as he senses the disturbance. He turns to see 4 robed figures collapsing onto the floor in exhaustion. He yells for Kix to heal them while he quickly prepares a potion. Kix rushes forward as On uncorks a healing potion with a pop. She kneels, her hands glowing as she casts a healing spell on one of the men. The injured man groans, his face pale and covered in cuts. He slowly begins to regain consciousness, murmuring weakly. On finishes applying the potion, relieved that the man is saved for the moment. The guildmaster Sparus rushes in, demanding to know what happened. The injured man gasps that a black dragon is heading for the city. In his office, Sparus learns the dragon is a formidable S-rank monster from Saitsu. Sparus frantically asks where the dragon is, and the man replies, Morphia Forest. The guildmaster orders the severely injured to be taken to the infirmary immediately. The wounded adventurers are helped away, one needing to lean on another for support. Sparus stops On's party, calling them by their name, Black Haze. On understands, telling his companions to follow him to the guildmaster's room. Sparus explains that Morphia Forest's ecosystem has been unstable for weeks. He reveals he sent an A-rank party, Phantom Spring Breeze, to investigate. With no S-rank parties in town, he fears the dragon will arrive before reinforcements. He bows his head, desperately begging them to somehow stop the dragon's advance. On realizes with a jolt that this is an official, nominated request. Sparus, sweating with anxiety, promises a substantial reward for their help. A wild grin spreads across On's face as he accepts their first clan mission. The weight of the mission settles in, a nominated request for an S-rank monster. On calmly agrees to take the job, stunning the guildmaster with his resolve. He then asks for the full details and briefing for the mission. Sparus explains that reinforcements from Meralda will arrive in half a day at the earliest. He stresses that the top priority is buying time for the citizens to evacuate. On asks if subjugating the dragon is an option, which Sparus confirms. Sparus warns him not to be reckless, and On nods in understanding. On turns to his companions, asking if they are all right with this dangerous mission. Kix gives a determined smile, insisting that there is no problem at all. Sync strikes a confident pose, declaring she will follow Onsama anywhere. The guildmaster sighs, resigning himself to their decision and thanking them. On turns with a confident, reassuring smile. He claps Sparus on the shoulder, startling him out of his somber mood. On tells him to get fired up and see them off with more spirit. He playfully puts his arm around the flustered guildmaster. Sparus's expression shifts to a wry smile as he agrees with On's sentiment. With a surge of energy, he throws his hand forward, shouting for them to go. On grins, promising to leave the town in their hands as they depart. The chapter title, Dragon Attack 2, appears over a view of the walled town. The party walks through the massive, dark archway of the town's main gate. Outside, On's expression turns serious as he spots something in the distance. The trio looks out across the plains towards a dark, winged shape in the sky. A colossal dragon soars towards them, its maw open in a terrifying silent roar. On notes grimly that the beast is approaching much faster than he anticipated. He tells his companions he will go on ahead to intercept it. His eyes crackle with energy as he invokes his Swift Thunder ability. He explodes forward, leaping high into the air with a powerful battle cry. The massive dragon roars back, accepting the direct challenge from the warrior. On raises his enormous, spiked mace, preparing to deliver a mighty blow. He swings with incredible force, smashing the mace directly into the dragon's head. The dragon is sent reeling backwards from the powerful, staggering blow. On lands gracefully on the ground, his expression focused and intense. He lets out a sharp cry, preparing to launch himself into the air once more. Using his sky dance skill, he leaps again, maneuvering in midair. His companions arrive and Kix calls out, asking if he is okay. On admits that the dragon's ability to fly makes it a difficult opponent. He instructs Kix to use her magic to target the creature's powerful wings. Sync confidently agrees to draw its attention, so Kix will have a clear shot. The Battle Maid and the Fox Girl gaze up at the airborne dragon. On identifies the colossal beast with a shout, his expression grim. The Battle Maid Sync confidently declares that she will be its opponent. She fearlessly taunts the creature, challenging it to attack from any direction. Her eyes flash as she activates her provoke skill, drawing its ire. The dragon responds with a deafening enraged roar that echoes loudly. Accepting the challenge, the massive beast dives directly towards the maid. It lands with a ground-shaking thud, kicking up clouds of dust. On intercepts with a surprise aerial attack, stunning the beast momentarily. Seeing an opening, the fox girl Kix begins to gather magical energy. The dragon recovers and unleashes a powerful torrent of fiery breath. Its attack is aimed directly at the vulnerable spellcasting Kix. The fiery blast connects with its target in a massive, fiery explosion. Sync screams that she won't allow it, blocking the attack for Kix. Her expression is one of fierce determination, holding strong against the flames. The dragon follows up with a claw swipe, sending Sync flying. On immediately dives back into the fray, his battle cry drawing its attention. Kix rushes to the injured Sync, who apologizes for her failure. Without hesitation, Kix casts a powerful healing spell on her companion. A wave of relief washes over Sync as she gratefully accepts the healing. Meanwhile, On lands another powerful spinning blow against the dragon's side. The beast stumbles, letting out a strange guttural groan of pain. On the ground, Kix suddenly senses that something is terribly wrong. She shouts a desperate warning to On, telling him to be careful. A massive energy beam erupts from the ground, narrowly missing him. Sync praises On's incredible reflexes, while Kix urges a finishing blow. On lands a short distance away, his brow furrowed in thought. He tells his companions that the dragon's behavior is very strange. Sync agrees, adding that the beast appears to be in immense pain. He realizes the dragon is not moving of its own volition. This makes its attacks dangerously unpredictable and difficult to counter. Kix wonders if they can help it. On agrees it's a possibility. He decides they will continue fighting to find the rampage's cause. He instructs Kix to concentrate her attacks on the dragon's wings. Sync is ordered to continue her provocations to manage its aggression. On will get close to investigate, and his companions accept the plan. Channeling his power, On activates his thunder drum and swift thunder skills. He launches himself into the air, soaring alongside the massive beast. Flying parallel to the dragon, he gets a clear view of its back. His sharp eyes spot something unnatural embedded deep in its flesh. Activating his appraisal skill, he focuses on the strange object. The object is a wicked, ornate black blade pulsing with dark energy. His eyes widen in horror as he recognizes his own cursed weapon. The shocking realization of the demon sword's presence leaves him stunned. He confirms it is the demon sword, the cause of the rampage. With newfound purpose, he lands deftly on the dragon's back. The beast lets out a low guttural groan, still thrashing weakly. He shouts down to his companions, announcing he's found the cause. Standing firm on the beast, he prepares for the next phase. He explains to his worried companions about the embedded demon sword. He believes that pulling the sword out might stop the rampage. However, they must first find a way to immobilize the creature. The maid suggests the pitiful option of simply knocking it unconscious. On considers this, a new desperate plan forming in his mind. He recalls his large stash of potent sleeping mushrooms, or emendake. He orders his companions to distract the beast while he prepares. His companions immediately engage the dragon, creating a vital diversion. On quickly finds a large sack and his mountain of mushrooms. He frantically stuffs the burlap sack completely full with the fungi. With the sack packed tight, he cinches the top, readying his weapon. He watches the battle, planning to force-feed the beast the mushrooms. Sync takes command, ordering a halt to their attacks for support. He crouches, waiting for the perfect moment when the dragon roars. The fox girl nods, confirming she understands the new risky plan. The battle maid also acknowledges her role in the desperate gambit. The three warriors move into position, ready to execute the plan. Sync leaps high into the air, using her sky dance technique. She soars directly towards the dragon's face to draw its attack. She unleashes a powerful thunder orb spell directly at the beast. The sphere of lightning strikes the dragon squarely in the face. The beast grunts in pain and surprise from the powerful magical blow. Enraged, the dragon rears back and lets out a deafening roar. On shouts that this is their chance and launches himself forward. He flies directly towards the dragon's gaping maw with the sack. He shoves the sack down its throat and leaps away to safety. Landing gracefully, he wonders aloud if the desperate measure worked. He plans to attack its organs while waiting for the poison. The maid agrees to act as a diversion to split its attention. Kix nods, confirming she will handle any necessary healing. With the team aligned, On gives the final command to attack. The battle resumes with renewed ferocity, the team working in concert. The maid fearlessly draws the dragon's attacks, creating openings. Kix stands ready, prepared to cast healing magic at a moment's notice. 10 minutes later, the potent mushrooms finally begin to take effect. The massive beast's movements grow sluggish before it finally collapses. On confirms that the creature appears to be properly asleep now. He tells his companions to stand back as he prepares to act. He approaches the sinister black sword embedded in the dragon's neck. He grips the ornate hilt of the demonic blade with both hands. With a great grunt of effort, he struggles to pull it free. He realizes the sword is stuck fast, as if fused to the hide. On resolves to use his full power to extract the cursed weapon. Dark energy sparks as the blade resists his pull with unnatural tenacity. With a furious roar, he heaves on the sword with all his might. With one final powerful tug, the demonic sword is ripped free. The sudden, searing pain jolts the massive dragon awake instantly. It lets out a bewildered, agonized roar as On stumbles backward. Disoriented, the beast launches itself into the sky and flees. On is left stunned, holding the demonic sword as it smokes. He suddenly feels his magical energy being violently siphoned away. A crippling sensation overwhelms the horned warrior as his energy is violently siphoned away. He feels his magical power draining rapidly through the cursed blade in his hand. Struggling against the weapon's influence, he questions its demonic nature. His strength fails, forcing him to release the malevolent sword onto the ground. His companions rush to his side, concerned by his sudden collapse. Catching his breath, he admits he was startled as Kix asks what happened. He realizes his consciousness was nearly stolen by the cursed weapon. He concludes that the dangerous demonic sword was the true cause of the rampage. The maid confirms his theory and asks what their next move will be. He explains his plan to destroy the sword using his unique weapon-breaking ability. With grim determination, he summons his massive spiked iron club. He swings the heavy weapon down with immense force towards the sword. With a furious roar, he unleashes his full power upon the cursed blade. The powerful blow connects, shattering the demonic sword into pieces. A dark, malevolent energy erupts from the sword as it breaks into fragments. Breathing a sigh of relief, he stands over the smoking remains of the sword. An unseen energy begins to pulse from the shattered hilt. The mysterious energy spreads outwards from the broken blade fragment. He decides it is time to head back and report the incident to Sparus. A powerful wave of unseen energy radiates from the sword's destruction. The released energy converges on an unknown target in the distance. The mysterious energy wave finally reaches its unseen destination. A young man with dark hair convulses on the ground, struck by the energy. His eyes fly open in shock as he wonders what is happening to him. Discovering the unconscious man, On urgently tells Kix to heal him. Kix casts a healing spell, her hands glowing with restorative light. The group watches cautiously as the man begins to stir from unconsciousness. Dazed, the dark-haired man sits up, asking where he is. On's expression is cold as he identifies the man as the Black Dragon. The man reacts with arrogant indignation, demanding to know who On is. In response, On delivers a powerful punch, asking who the man thinks he is. A dangerous smirk spreads across his face as he addresses the man. The man's face is bruised as he realizes who he is speaking to. The maid glares, muttering angrily about the disrespectful little brat. She threatens to smash him herself, her rage palpable and menacing. On dryly notes that Sync's tone of voice has changed completely. Flustered, the maid apologizes for getting carried away by her emotions. He grabs the man, demanding to know what he was thinking. Kix apologizes for her companion's aggressive need to educate him. A few minutes pass, and the tense situation finally resolves. His education complete, the man introduces himself as Drake and apologizes. The maid cheerfully suggests to her masters that they take Drake as a subordinate. She promises to train him into a fine subordinate, much to his terror. She declares she will make him understand their group's splendor. On asks Drake why he was possessed by the demonic sword. Drake admits that his memory of the event is hazy and unclear. The maid listens with a suspicious expression, not fully convinced. He vaguely recalls being stabbed in the back while he was asleep. On asks if he remembers any features of his attacker. The group sits down to talk, the atmosphere now much calmer. On recalls the attacker was a man with red hair, which he finds puzzling. This means the culprit was not his old enemy, Martis. Drake prepares to tell them his story, admitting it will be long. He recalls winning a trial to decide the next village chief. He explains he was born and raised in a village of Dragoniutes. Angered, he went on a rampage and fell asleep from exhaustion. On bluntly states that Drake reaped what he sowed for his actions. Drake insists he was framed, claiming someone tampered with his food. On smirks, understanding the situation even without all the details. He asks Drake a simple, direct question. What does he want to do now? He clarifies he won't force him to join, but will watch over him. Drake declares his singular goal is now to become strong. He screams that he's sick of his village and tired of losing. The maid notes that his goal is the same as theirs. A wide, excited grin spreads across On's face. He says that becoming strong is more fun with comrades. Drake asks if they will truly let him be their companion. The maid suggests they formalize it with a subordination contract. Kix reassures him that the contract can be canceled anytime. Drake admits that he was wary when he first fought them. He recalls being envious of their one-sided trust in each other. He vaguely recalls the maid's fierce fighting during their battle. Now, he wants to be a part of their group. He shouts that he wants to become their companion and brother. On casually agrees, though he questions the brother part. Drake confirms that the contract has been successfully formed. The group warmly welcomes Drake, who is overjoyed to be accepted. A genuine, heartfelt smile spreads across Drake's face. On asks to check Drake's status to formalize their arrangement. A status screen appears, showing Drake's impressive stats and skills. On acknowledges his new powerhouse companion with a simple, okay. Sparus and his party ride up, asking if On is all right. The two parties meet, with Sparus noting the dragon has vanished. On smugly replies that a lot happened, and it's a long story. One of the horses munches on grass while the groups talk. Drake reveals that he was the dragon, driven berserk by a demon's sword. He takes responsibility for his rampage and injuring their companions. He bows deeply in apology for the harm he caused. They accept the apology, noting no one died and he was also a victim. With the apology accepted, the matter is declared settled between them. On is pleased, feeling like everything has worked out well. On's thoughts turn to the red-haired man Drake mentioned. He asks Sparus if he knows anything about the red-haired attacker. On asks to borrow the sword fragments for his report to the capital. Sparus reassures him, promising to report Drake as a victim. Sparus's party departs, promising to meet at the guild later. On and Kix wave goodbye as the other party rides away. On decides to hunt more, as he is on the verge of evolving. The maid decides she and Drake will return to Fullenwall first. The maid cheerfully offers to explain everything to the intimidated Drake. With his back to his companions, Drake prepares to depart on his own mission. On and his fox-eared friend, Shinku, share a confident look before beginning their task. They leap through the dense Morphia forest, intending to quickly gain experience. On moves with blinding speed through the trees, his expression one of pure focus. Shinku unleashes a devastating blast of fire, obliterating an unseen monster. The sound of their battle echoes through the woods, startling birds into flight. On lands a crushing blow with his mace, the impact shattering the air. Catching his breath after the swift fight, he lands gracefully on the forest floor. He feels a sudden jolt of energy, realizing his next evolution is beginning. The powerful kanji for Rasetsu, a fierce demon, flashes in the air around him. His power surges, evolving further into the form of a Rasten. Transformed and is wreathed in a powerful, crackling aura, his form more demonic. He eagerly calls forth his status, his eyes wide with excitement at the new data. He boasts that his new stats make him feel comparable to an S-rank adventurer. Having finished their training, they stand before the towering gates of Lacria. Two men on the street turn, surprised by the sight of the approaching pair. A couple in the crowd points, recognizing the heroes who saved their city. Ann and Shinku are suddenly mobbed by a crowd of adoring, grateful citizens. The townsfolk excitedly recount hearing of their heroism from the guildmaster. An notes that the people's gazes have shifted from wary curiosity to respect. The crowd chants their names, hailing them as saviors and heroes of the town. Peeking from behind a corner, An wryly acknowledges his new heroic status. Inside the guild, Sparus remarks that it took them an unexpectedly long time. He notes that having Drake join their party will be quite an expensive undertaking. Sparus states his intention to report the entire incident to Mirarline at the capital. Anne agrees to wait 1 week for Sparus to coordinate the official reports. On confidently points to a map, explaining their base is the village of Frensveld. The small fox-like girl, Kiss, mentions she's heard of the village from adventurers. The man agrees to send a fast horse with their message for Barbal. As he leaves, On stops him, a mischievous glint in his eye. The sharp-eyed man, Helben, asks what else On has to say. Helben gravely informs On that the Lord of Lacuria wishes to see him. On mutters his dislike for nobles but reluctantly agrees to the meeting. Helben explains that the Lord is a good person and it's just a formality. He reassures On that he only needs to show his face to offer thanks. Upon exiting, On is immediately swarmed by his adoring fans, asking for autographs. He thinks to himself that the guild hall is the most bustling place in town. 1 hour passes. They arrive at the grand, imposing mansion of the local lord. A prim butler greets them by name, announcing that they have been expected. Inside, Lord Helbin Stetrius formally welcomes the party known as Black Haze. She expresses her sincere gratitude for their role in stopping the dragon. She hopes to work with such promising adventurers to protect Lycuria in the future. As they leave, On remarks on the Lord's surprisingly favorable attitude. Back at their inn, the dark-haired Drake and a maid await their return. Drake cheerfully announces that he is back with the group. The maid greets On and Kiss warmly, welcoming them back. She confirms to On that she has finished explaining everything to Drake. On gathers his companions, ready to discuss their next moves. Kiss declares with shining eyes that she will follow On anywhere. Drake vows to register as an adventurer and take on quests to make amends. The maid announces that she will accompany Drake to support him. On approves the plan, telling them to stay in contact for the next week. The core group, including the familiars Ars and Irusu, convenes for a meeting. They have urgently summoned the beastman merchant, Barble, to join their discussion. The five of them sit around a table, discussing the management of the dungeon. Barble asks when they will begin, and On decisively answers, "Tomorrow." On explains his desire to quickly generate buzz about the new dungeon. He reveals his plan to have the dungeon entrance manifest late that night. The next morning, he and Barble will address the villagers to prevent panic. At the same time, Drake will report the dungeon's discovery to the guild. His companions are impressed by his well-thought-out and strategic timing. On exclaims that an unexplored dungeon is the ultimate dream for any adventurer. He plans to place a rarity blue treasure chest on an early floor as bait. This will attract adventurers, allowing for the construction of inns and shops. More people in the village will generate more dungeon points for them. He and Irusu will use those points to increase the dungeon's difficulty. With a sharp-fanged grin, On declares, "Let's do it." Kiss looks on, her eyes reflecting his fierce determination. On tasks Kiss and Ars with preparing their clan house for the new arrivals. The pig familiar, Spars, acknowledges his role in the ambitious plan. The group dissolves, buzzing with excitement for the busy days ahead. Kiss is seen preparing, arranging flowers in their newly established base. Barble reviews documents, managing the logistics for the burgeoning town. The wolf familiar, Irusu, stands guard over a treasure chest, a key lore. On stands over a chest, ready for the momentous opening of the dungeon. Under the light of the full moon, the new dungeon is officially opened. The next morning, the village of Frensveld awakens to a new day. The beastman villagers gather in the street, their faces filled with confusion. They stare in horror at the new dungeon entrance, fearing another forced exodus. Kiss steps forward, her voice raised as she urges the panicked crowd to calm down. On observes from the side, noting that Kiss seems to be struggling to convince them. He makes a timely entrance, and the villagers immediately recognize him. A villager points in terror, explaining that a dungeon has appeared in their midst. Another villager rushes forward, begging On to destroy it immediately. On silences the crowd with a powerful shout, demanding that they listen. He makes the shocking declaration that the dungeon is a stroke of good fortune. He explains how a managed dungeon in the capital brings prosperity and prevents stampedes. He reveals that they have already petitioned the guild to establish a local branch. He assures the villagers that the guild's presence will guarantee their safety. He paints a picture of a bustling town with new businesses and great wealth. He asks them if they agree it will be a more enjoyable place to live. The villagers, won over by his vision, shout their enthusiastic agreement. Kiss reflects that this is a chance for beastmen to be more accepted. Her eyes shining, she exclaims that she can't contain her excitement. Two beastmen excitedly discuss the prospect of becoming rich from the new opportunities. Two others decide they want to open a clothing store and a tavern. On rallies the crowd, vowing to build a town for beastmen together. The villagers chatter excitedly about building parks, stylish cafes, and even a bookstore. Back in his room, On sits on his bed, telepathically contacting Sink and Drake. The maid Sink reports to On that she has successfully informed the Lycuria Adventurers Guild about the new Princevelt dungeon. Drake is ecstatic about becoming a C-rank adventurer, declaring that he can now finally begin to repay his debt. On instructs Drake to continue taking on quests in Lycuria for a few more days until he and Kix arrive. For now, On decides to focus on managing the Princevelt dungeon and attracting more adventurers to the area. 5 days later, the Beastman village of Frensfeld is bustling with activity from the many newly arrived adventurers. Observing the crowd, Kix notes that far more adventurers have arrived than she had anticipated, all eager for rare items. A thought bubble displays the rare blue-quality items, a sickle and earrings that one of the first parties found. Kix reports that the shallow floors are safe enough for even low-rank adventurers to explore, with about 5 parties inside at any time. She identifies the A-rank party Phantom Spring Breeze as the group that has progressed the furthest into the dungeon. The party broke through to the 10th floor, defeated a red ogre, and retreated after finding a rare blue bow. Studying a map of the dungeon, On realizes with concern that he must add more floors and a powerful boss. Kix rushes to his side, flustered, holding a letter that has just arrived by fast horse from a man named Spars. On is surprised by the message, as he wasn't expecting to hear anything until the following day. After reading the letter, he tells his companions that he and Kix must travel to Lacria together. In a formal meeting, Spars apologizes for the urgent summons, explaining that the group's reward has arrived. Before On can ask about the Prince of Elt dungeon, Spars says he must first address the matter of their reward. He stuns On by announcing that he, Kix, and Sync have been officially recognized as S-rank adventurers, making their party one as well. Spars laughs, amazed at their promotion to S-rank only a month after they first registered as adventurers. He explains that the town's lack of an S-rank party necessitated their unexpectedly rapid promotion. Drake soberly asks about his own fate, accepting that he must take responsibility for his past actions. The entire party bows deeply as Spars reassures them that Drake will face no problems while under their supervision. With their clan application also approved, Spars asks if they have decided on a name for their new group. Standing proudly with his companions, On prepares to announce the name they have chosen for their clan. Against a glittering, starry backdrop, he declares that their clan name is Siren, the Star Tempest. On's eyes gleam with ambition as he states their ultimate objective, to become the strongest in this world. Kix reflects on how they all came to this shared, ambitious goal together. The maid Sync thinks about the incredible scale of the objective they have set for themselves. Drake looks on, confident that with this group of companions, they can actually achieve their grand goal. Spars presents them with a fitting challenge, a grand clan competition to be held in the capital in 2 months. A text bubble explains the tournament determines official clan rankings and is usually restricted to clans established for at least 2 years. The regal woman reveals that their exceptional power has been noticed by the higher-ups, granting them a special invitation. She cautions that winning will not be easy, but asks if they will accept the challenge and participate in the tournament. On roars his acceptance, with his entire party fired up and declaring that if they enter, they are going to win. Spars laughs, having expected their enthusiastic response, and states that the Earl will surely be pleased. He reveals one final reward, something he and the Earl of Stedrix used their connections to acquire. On is confused as a long-sheathed sword is presented to him, wondering what more there could be. He is utterly stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief as he recognizes the magnificent weapon as Itachi. He wonders if it's truly all right for him to receive such an incredibly fine weapon. The woman explains that she had debated giving them money, but felt the sword was the correct choice. On's eye glows as he activates his appraisal skill to examine the details of the powerful sword. The appraisal reveals it is the Hakren Maru, a red rarity sword forged by a master smith with elemental properties. He exclaims that it's an incredible weapon and asks the woman if she can perform appraisals herself. She explains it's a demon tribe weapon she thought would suit his attire, as there are few Tachi users. On clenches his fist, recalling that he had only touched Itachi once as a child. With a huge fanged grin, he thanks them profusely, vowing that he will absolutely master the new blade. Spars smiles fondly, thinking to himself about On's endearing and childish side. Holding the new weapon, On marvels at how incredible it feels, something he's never experienced before. Spars is happy that his efforts to prepare the gift were so well received, and entrusts Lacria's future to them. On's expression shifts as he suddenly remembers to ask about the matter of the Princevelt dungeon. Spars' demeanor becomes grave as he reveals he has a confidential request, one only for A-rank parties or higher. He reveals a shocking truth that leaves On momentarily stunned. Dungeons can actually be destroyed. He explains the recent stampede was caused when another S-rank party destroyed a dungeon's core, making it vanish. On understands that when managed properly, dungeons generate immense profits and rare items for the region. A strategic map illustrates the grand plan to turn the Princevelt area into a major adventuring hub. Spars emphasizes that the dungeon is absolutely indispensable for the future development of both Lacria and the new village. On listens intently, understanding the heavy responsibility of ensuring the safety of the local residents. He agrees to the mission, stating that they must quickly establish a branch office to manage the situation. The group resolves to immediately begin handling the logistics for their new branch office.